Thank you, sir.
Looks like he showed up ready. Huh, Matt?
Yes.
Looks like he showed up ready.
That deadline has now come and gone, and it could be the final step before
Streaming live on YouTube.
It's like all my bills are coming in at the same. Loaded.
Hey. Chair, do we have Commissioner Ana Velasquez? Otherwise, I think everyone's here. Commissioner Craig said that she wouldn't be at the meeting, at least on the invite to the meeting.
She is, though.
I'm here and accounted for.
Oh, good, good.
All right, all right.
We're
The
happy to
question-
see you, Mayor.
The
It's an
question
honor
is,
to be here.
the question is, do we have a quorum?
That's a yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Just a moment. Okay, I'll call to order the Local Agency Formation Commission for Monterey County. It's our Monday, June 20th, 2021 meeting, 4 p.m. of course. This is a virtual meeting. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Alejo,
Here.
Commissioner Craig,
Agency Formation Commission for Monterey County. It's our Monday, June 20th, 2021 meeting, 4 p.m. of course. This is.
Wow.
you want me to continue the roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Craig, Commissioner Gorley,
Here.
Commissioner Leffel,
Here.
I don't think I quorum after
Commissioner
all.
Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Here.
Commissioner Snodgrass, Commissioner Stevens,
Here.
Commissioner Velasquez, we have a quorum, and we have Commissioner Velasquez and Commissioner Snodgrass are not present, but they are not voting members.
Okay, thank you so much.
I don't think I heard my name called, but waitress is here as well.
Oh, sorry, Pete.
All right, no problem.
Okay.
Just wanted for the record, I'm here.
Well, I know you're there. I see you, so you're there.
Okay.
For the chair, Wendy Root Askew, alternate, is also here.
Oh, thank you, Wendy.
Yep, of course. And it looks like there's a handful of guests who don't have their microphones muted, so that may be why we're getting some feedback.
Okay.
Well, yeah, everybody should mute yourself every once in a while, at least, particularly when we're getting the presentations. Next, we'll move to Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask Commissioner Gorley, if you would, please lead us in a pledge of allegiance.
And of course, join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
To
of the United
United
States
States
of
of
America
America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Under
indivisible,
With
with
liberty and
justice
justice
and
for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will open up our public comment. Anyone may wish to address the commission may do so for up to 3 minutes underneath this public comment portion. If you want to comment on items on the agenda, please save your comments for that time. Public comment is now open.
Chair, I do not see any hands raised for public comment.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Remains open. Seeing no hands, hearing no one, seek recognition, public comment is closed. Next is special business item number 1, administer the oath of office to reappointment of city member, a regular member, Commissioner Ian Oglesby, for a term ending on the first Monday in May 2025. It's difficult for me to read it to myself, so we're going to ask our Vice Chair Lopez to administer the oath. If you would, Chris, please.
Absolutely, Mayor Oglesby. So go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you, Ian Oglesby, solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter?
I do.
Congratulations, and thank you for your service, Mayor Oglesby.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the pleasure. It was nice to have you read me back in. Next is special business item number 2, select the LAFCO chair and chair pro temporary for period ending May 2021. I think that's a typo, right?
Yes, it should be 2022.
Yeah, we didn't catch that, but I mean,
No.
might be late, might be a little late. So Chris, maybe I'll stay then, right?
That's right.
So we recommend, well, it's up for nominations, and normally it'll be the vice chair, but what commissioner would like to move the appointment of our vice chair forward?
So moved. I'll move it. Poitras.
Second.
Porteous probably moved and seconded. Let's take it out to the public. Any public comment?
And who was the second?
Worley.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment, Jonathan?
See no public comment.
Okay, public comments closed. Bringing it back to the dais. Any questions? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Alejo,
Aye.
Commissioner Craig,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorley,
Yes.
Commissioner Leffel. Commissioner Leffel. Yes, okay,
sorry,
that's okay. Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras,
Yes.
Commissioner Snodgrass is not here. Yeah, Commissioner, I think that's it. That's all we have. The rest of the folks aren't able to vote, so we're okay.
Voted unanimously. We could have done them both together, but but we didn't. So, Chris, if you're prepared, we still need to do the chair pro tem. So turn over
Absolutely.
the chair to the new chair.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. So at this point, what's on our agenda is also the selection of a chair pro tem for this year. Is there any nominations from the floor?
So are you, you're in the Zoom, right? You're not watching on YouTube, you're in Zoom.
Lauren, can we get you to go ahead and mute yourself, please? Thank you very much. So in terms of
Through the
our
chair.
standard, yes, Mayor Oglesby.
I was talking to Kate earlier, and we that's one thing we failed to talk about is who's next in line. So Kate, could you just tell us who's up next as a rep?
Yes, Mayor Oglesby, by commission policy, the rotation would fall to a special district member of the commission to become the vice chair this year. And that can be either a voting member or our alternate member.
Okay. So we're looking for a special district nomination in order to fill the role of pro tem for this year. Are there any nominations from the floor? Mayor Oglesby.
I would nominate Commissioner Leffel.
I'll second.
Okay. I've got a motion from Mayor Oglesby and a second from Commissioner Alejo. Is there any public comment on this item? I'll ask the public to use the raise hand function, which is either at the bottom of your screen or in your reactions tab on this particular nomination. Seeing no hands going up, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back for a roll call vote. I'm going to kick that over to Gail.
Commissioner Alejo,
Aye.
Commissioner Craig,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorley,
Yes.
Commissioner Leffel,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras.
Sure, yes.
Okay. And we have all
All right.
ayes.
The motion carries. Thank you, Gail.
Thank
And with that, we're going to head into a special recognition for the Clerk of the Commission, Gail Lawrence, for distinguished service to the local Agency Formation Commission of Monterey County. And to kick us off with a few words, I'd like to hand it over to Kate to share some thoughts with us. Kate?
Thank you, Chair Lopez. Yes, Gail has been at my side now for almost 10 years, and she has been part of public service now for 30 years here in Monterey County. So today we are preparing to celebrate her pending retirement and wish her the very best in the future with lots of travel and family plans. So thank you so much, Gail.
And thank you.
We'll
Thank
miss
you
you.
all. It's been a great team to work with, and I've enjoyed the 10 years. I mean, it's been really good. So I can tell you, I've enjoyed, this is part of my career I've enjoyed the most. So just want to thank everyone. And they gave me this beautiful resolution just to show you.
Show it off. Beautiful.
So I have something to take home. So it's great. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Perhaps-
Gail. I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Oglesby, who's going to share a few words with us.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a few words. I think we got a whole bunch of people. Somehow they're in our Zoom meeting, but they're not muted. I just want to take a few seconds just to thank Gail and what she's done for, I guess, the last 10 years at LAFCO, and definitely for the last 3 or 4 years I've been on the commission, and the help she's given me since day one. But I think all of you guys in your area of expertise, or where you, represent a body, when COVID hit, how you had to work closely with your executive directors and their staff to get the meetings up and running. Gail was there day one, working us through these Zoom meetings, trying to make sure LAFCO continues to do the work that we do so well. and all the other things that she does for the agency. I just want to add my 2 cents by saying she made me very successful as the chair, getting the work we had to get done through these Zoom meetings. I think you guys remember we first started meeting at the county offices.
Yeah.
Right, spread out a little bit with our mask on and everything else. And so she worked us through those difficulties, even the closed sessions that we had. And she will be missed, and I appreciate her 100%. And we just appreciate you, Gail. And
Thank you.
have a good time and do what you need to do. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And on behalf of those that don't want to speak, you made sure that LAFCO continued to run even during this pandemic. Because the only way we can meet is when you called us together with Zoom, right?
Thank you, Mayor Oglesby. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go to Mary Ann Leffel next.
Gail, I just want to say, as a still fairly new commissioner, that you really made the transition easy, and I really appreciate it. Kate runs a good ship, and you are a good part of that ship. So thank you so much, and I've enjoyed working with you, and I wish you lots and lots of fun in the next chapter of your life. And you know what? That proclamation, do not take it with you. Just put it someplace and dust it every 6 months when you come home.
Thank you, Marianne. I appreciate that. And I've enjoyed working with you too. You all have been just wonderful. It's been great. Really has. I've enjoyed it.
We're going to go to Commissioner Poitras next.
Yeah, hi. I just want to say thanks. Everything you've done for all of us, you've always done it with a smile. I don't think I've ever seen you frown. And we thank you for everything you've done for us.
Oh, thank you, Pete.
And we're going to miss you. No question about that.
I appreciate that so much. I'm going to miss all of you too, really, truly. And it's going to be hard to leave.
Or you can always zoom in.
Yes, I can. There you go.
Gail, from the bottom of my
will.
heart, I want to say thank you. I want to say that, you know, as a staffer for a decade, working with you behind the scenes to help things go off, there's very few people as dedicated as you. And I know when Sandra shared with me that you were retiring, it was nearly with a tear in her eye after working so closely with you for a decade. And so know that your loss will be felt. We're going to miss you here, but we all wish you the best and know that it's a well-earned retirement. So thank you for your service to all of the citizens of Monterey County. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner. And I've enjoyed working with you and with Sandra. It's been really one of the best parts of my job. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to see if we have any public comment. I'm sure the attorneys will appreciate that we always have to get public comment. Right, Kelly? All right, seeing no hands up, I'll close public comment and bring it back. And so at this point, I believe that, did we need to actually approve this resolution today, Kate, or was it already approved?
It's approved. This is fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, thank you very much. And with that, Gail, we wish you the best, but no, you're not going too far yet. So we enjoy having you nearby.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank all of you so much.
So next on my agenda is closed session. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and make sure with County Council, we are going to have a closed session today, given the matters on our agenda. So it's appropriate to open the public comment regarding items on closed session today.
Sorry, but that was a question. I missed that.
That was a question. It was.
The answer is yes, we are having closed
Okay.
session. It's pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, and the commission will confer with legal counsel regarding one matter of significant exposure to litigation. Sorry, I missed the question mark at the end of your statement.
No problem. No problem. Okay, then with that, we will open public comment to see if there's any public comment on the closed session item before us today. I see one hand up from a Michael Bear. Michael, we're going to go ahead and give you a minute and a half to share your public comment with this commission.
Hi, I'm following along, and does this mean you guys are gonna close session? We got, close to 70 participants. Many of us are interested in commenting on number 11, so, but you're gonna do this now and then we'll come back?
Yes, that's our process.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other hands up, I'm going to close the public comment portion, and we're going to go ahead and head to closed session. We will be back out as soon as that wraps. We have one item. We'll see you all after. I believe Jonathan is going to break us out into a breakout room. Is that correct, Jonathan?
Yes, that's correct.
So commissioners, make sure to hit accept on that breakout room. Thank you.
Jonathan, did I miss something? I didn't see anything yet.
Sorry, I'll get you going.
Yeah, Jonathan, it's Steve Snodgrass. I can't get in either.
Did I do that share screen right?
No.
There we go. There we go.
You want me to go back and take them off?
Please. Yeah.
Sessions. Oh, this one, yeah. Sorry, I'm stuck in here. I can't get out of this thing.
Start the presentation.
So
make sure you
oh,
have
sorry.
it started.
There we go. That's what I was
Turn alt tab to get back to your Zoom.
doing. Yes. Thank you. Oops.
Oh.
Did I lose Zoom?
And hold alt tab. Zoom is over here.
Oh, God. You're good.
There's your Zoom. So I'm gonna click to go full screen here.
Okay.
And then you just start your share.
And then hit that one. And share. Thank you. And then I've got stop share when you're ready for me to stop, right?
Yeah, I'll start coming down the stairs when they're starting.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Sorry, I didn't make that easy for you. I got discombobulated there on one.
I'm looking to see if Steve's progress comes. He's like, skills. Because they're not.
Yeah, there's only 2 that haven't showed up. Yeah.
Shit.
Closed session, okay. Closed session.
I don't know what's happening.
Okay, going to give everybody just a minute to rejoin us here this evening. Okay, I think I've got everybody back. Let me double check here. Okay, yeah, it looks like we're all here. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. We're coming out of closed session at this point. I'll check with council to see if there's anything to report out of closed session at this point.
No, we don't have any reportable items, Chair.
Great, thank you. All right, next up is our consent agenda consisting of items 5 through 10. Is there a member of the commission who wishes to pull an item from today's consent agenda? Seeing no hands up, I'm going to see if there's any public comment on our consent agenda. Ask folks to use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. That's either in your reactions tab or right at the bottom. *9 via landline or cell phone will let us know you wish to be recognized. Seeing no hands up, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back. Is there a motion to move consent?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll take the motion from Leffel and the second from Alejo. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Commissioner Alejo,
Aye.
Commissioner Craig,
Aye.
Commissioner Leffel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorley,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras.
Yes.
All ayes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. With that, we'll head into our old business, starting with item 11. I'm going to kick this over to our executive officer for presentation.
Thank you, Chair Lopez, members of the commission. And Jonathan is going to assist me today with sharing some items up on our screen. Item 11 is a continuation item from our commission meeting of April. As you recall, the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District submitted an application to LAFCO in February of this year, consisting of two parts. One is a proposal to activate latent powers to provide potable water production and distribution services for retail customers. The other part of the application is a request for a sphere of influence amendment and annexation of approximately 58 parcels that are presently outside of the district boundaries. That application is currently in an incomplete status. The district did respond in May to our initial request for additional information. And the only outstanding item at this time on our completeness list is a request for analysis regarding reduction in annual property tax revenue to our local taxing agencies. Work on that analysis is underway now by a consultant that has been retained by the district. At your April meeting, the commission conducted a closed session a study session to consider whether or not additional feasibility related information is required at this time in order for the commission to undertake its statutory responsibilities in processing and analyzing and considering this application at a future public hearing. The public policy question on today's for today's meeting is additional feasibility related information necessary for the commission to process and consider the proposal. Your staff and council are concluding at this time that based on all of the information that we have received to date, that no additional independent third-party analysis or updated reports are necessary at this time. We are recommending a conclusion that the district's application and the supporting materials will support adequate information for our statutory requirements. In addition, as part of a future public hearing process, the commission does preserve its authority to request additional analysis and information if it determines that even a complete application requires more information. I'd also like to note again that the district's completion of a current study of property tax revenue loss impacts is underway as a matter of completeness, and that will provide some additional information. Going forward, once the incomplete item is addressed, which will probably we expect the district's consultant to provide that information sometime this summer. My responsibility would be to determine that the application is complete. And at that time, under state law, the public hearing would be scheduled before the commission. And the time to schedule that hearing would be about 90 days after the completeness decision. At this time, we're recommending that you, in addition to receiving this report, that you receive any public comments and that you provide for any questions, additional discussion, or direction to staff. I'd also like to note that we have received today some new correspondence from members of the public. This material will be and has been entered into the public record, received from Margaret Ann Coppernoll, Michael Bear, and Ron Weitzman. The email from Ms. Coppernoll was distributed to the commission earlier this afternoon, and just in the last hour or so, we received correspondence from Mr. Bear and Mr. Weitzman, and those emails have just been forwarded to the commission a few moments ago. So with that, we are concluding our staff presentation, and we're here to respond to any of your questions and to, at the commission chair's discretion, proceed with receiving any public comments. Thank you.
Mr. Tynan, can you please mute yourself?
Shoot, I'm sorry.
Thank you. We appreciate that. All right. Thank you, everybody. So again, at this point, we're taking public comment, correct, Kate?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'm going to ask if the public would mind raising their hands so that I can get a good scope of how many folks we have that would like to comment this evening. If you're participating via Zoom on computer, it is at the bottom of your screen or in your reactions tab, depending on your version. If you're on landline and wish to speak, *9 on your phone, will raise your hand and let us know you wish to be recognized. So I'm seeing a significant amount of speakers, so we're going to go ahead and allot 90 seconds per speaker. It's a minute and a half. Kate, do we have the ability to keep that timer, or do I need to keep that myself here?
Jonathan, can you do that?
I can set the timer. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Then with that, I'm going to work down the list in the order that the hands were raised. I'm going to go with Melody Chrislock first. Melody, you should have the ability to unmute yourself and share your public comment with us now.
Melody Chrislock, Director of Public Water Now. Is this buyout in the public interest? 24,000 Callan customers said yes when they voted for Measure J. The Water Management District has said yes with their feasibility study. Can we afford it? Yes. CalAM's profits basically cover the cost of acquisition. But because this will be an eminent domain case, the court will ultimately have to say yes. Because of this, you can make your approval conditional to the court's decision. Since most of you are not CalAM customers, it may not be obvious to you that it would be hard to do a worse job in providing water. It's our public agencies, Monterey One and MPWMD, who have come to the rescue with Pure Water Monterey. CalAM's solution to our water shortage has been to raise the cost of water. Their profits always trump the public interest. We pay the highest water costs in the country. There are those on this board who always support CalAM and have blocked the peninsula on water issues before. We hope this is not the case again. It's been almost 3 years since voters set this in motion. Now your decision is all that stands in the way of making CalAM an offer. Please grant conditional approval of the district's latent powers without delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. I'm going to go to Wallace Notley next. Wallace Notley, you now have the ability to unmute yourself, please. You have 90 seconds to share your comment.
Yes, good afternoon. And Wallace Notley, Carmel. The major decision before you is whether to grant the water district latent power to own and operate the water purveyance system. CalAM has been so busy lobbying state and local officials for maximum profit that they really never considered trying to provide an adequate provide an economically and environmentally just additional water source. CalAM's track record includes poor environmental stewardship, such as the cease and desist order to quit over pumping the Carmel River for many years. They have charged ratepayers for failed projects, for conserving water, and for whatever way they could. The water district has helped us to save water and to realize the state-of-the-art recycled water project for Pure Water Monterey and Pure Water Monterey expansion. The water district is responsive to the will of the local voters, overwhelmingly approval of Measure J, and has determined with the help of business specialists that indeed public ownership of CalAM is in the public interest. Respect the will of the voters and residents and the legal mandate to move forward so we can be relieved of the terrible burden of CalAM's irresponsible environmental stewardship and oppressive water rates. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to go to Rick Hewer next. Rick, the floor is yours for 90 seconds.
Greetings, I'm Rick Hoyer. I'm president of the Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association. You have before you probably the most contentious issue that's been on the Monterey Peninsula for years, and that's water. That's not why we're here tonight. We're here tonight about your statutory job of overseeing this process and determining what needs to happen next. I think it is incumbent upon you all and the public, particularly who is potentially at risk for tens of millions of dollars in fees, to do an independent appraisal and view of the operating plan and the feasibility. Both things you have in front of you are biased to their own viewpoints. You're the only independent agency that's actually looking at this matter and can weigh in and take an impartial outside look of it. To say that what is in front from the Water Management District covers all aspects and all things truly, in their view it does, but they have a specific view to want to buy CalAM. To say that CalAM's view of appraisal and all the rest is accurate, they have a view of what their property is worth and what would be needed to take it from them. It's your job to come in the middle and see and do that independent third-party review of aspects so the public and taxpayers in particular who are going to be on the hook for this, either way, they'll be on the hook for paying for the buyout or will be on the hook for paying for the failed buyout. Your job is to make sure that at least the best information possible is used and the true impact is viewed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. We're going to go to George Sonic next. George, the floor is yours for 90 seconds.
Thank you. I'm counsel for CalAM. I would respectfully request 5 minutes to speak, please.
At this point, I think we're doing 90 seconds apiece at this point, but we can take that up at the end after public comment.
Well, I appreciate that. The reason I wanted a little bit more time is because of this process and where we are. As you will recall, on March 28th, the staff sent a detailed letter to the district raising a number of questions and setting up a study session for April 26th. If you look back at the staff report for that April 26th study session, you'll see those questions referred to, and also a discussion of the information that we have supplied on behalf of Cal-Am. Now tonight, this is no longer called a study. The April 26th study session, by the way, was continued. And if you look at the staff report, what was proposed to happen there, it did not happen, and that's fine for scheduling reasons. But now tonight, we don't have a study session. What we have is staff report saying, good to go. They're about ready to bring this on for an up or down vote on September 27 within 90 days. And if you need more information, then you can ask for it. That's not the way this process should work. You won't have time to get more information. This is a stunning proposal in its scope. They contend it's a $500 million proposal. Cal-Am has submitted a certified appraisal report showing that it's $1 billion proposal. I asked that the commissioners look at the letters that we sent on April 14 and April 22 for that prior study session of April 26, as well as attachment 4 to tonight's agenda, which is our June 16 letter.
Reached 90 seconds.
Yeah, all right. And then I just asked for a transparent process where we know what's going to be studied when and what's going to happen as opposed to an up or down vote. Thank you. I'm sorry for running slightly over.
Thank you, Mr. Sonif. We're going to go to Susan Schiavone next. Susan, the floor is yours for 90 seconds.
Thank you. Susan Schiavone from Seaside. I am a supporter of Measure J and a Cal-Am customer. Please do not delay a conditional approval for MPWMD's application to assert its latent powers to provide potable water services for retail customers and to amend the sphere of influence and annexation. Please respect the legal mandate of Measure J, supported by overwhelming majority of voters in the Cal-Am service area. It is counterproductive to delay or question this legal voter directive. Voters have called for a public water utility. 88% of water systems in the United States are public agencies with a proven track record of providing better quality service, better water, and affordability than private companies. The district studied and determined the feasibility of a buyout that is fiscally responsible and affordable. Any issues raised will be and should be addressed in the court proceedings and decided by the judicial system. Should the findings be negative, the court will make your conditional approval void, so there is no risk or need for further delay. Please resist wasteful, increased expenditure of public funds and time and conditionally approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I see Gary C. I can't see the rest of the name there. I'm assuming that's maybe Gary Curcio based on the CUR. Then now's your 90 seconds, Gary, if you want to unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a longtime resident of the district in the Monterey Peninsula, and tonight I'm speaking as a resident and customer of the district. If the district is successful, they will be quadrupling their budget and undertaking the largest condemnation in California history. You must have all the information before you decide how best to proceed. Right now, you have a he said, she said version of the facts. You need a qualified outside expert to review this complex matter and help you to form an objective decision. I urge you to reject the staff recommendation and bring in the experts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curcio. Next, I see Bev Bean. Bev, we're going to go ahead and give you the floor. Go ahead and unmute and share your 90-second comment with us now.
Thank you. I am Beverly Bean. I ask the board to respect the will of the voters of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District as the process mandated by Measure J moves forward. LAFCO does not need to spend more public money on another study to estimate the cost of the buyout. The final price cannot be known until the end of the eminent domain case, where it will be decided by a jury. The court will determine if a buyout is in the public interest, and the court will verify financial feasibility. At this point, CalAm is trying to manipulate the process to increase the cost of the buyout. Doing that is part of their fiscal responsibility to their shareholders. It is not your responsibility to help them gain a pretrial advantage. It is not LAFCO's job to decide if a buyout is in the public interest. You don't need another study to do your job. You should all look at the recent outcome of CalAm's manipulation of the Monterey One Board's approval of the Pure Water Expansion Project. The obstruction was created by CalAm supporters on that board, some of whom were subsequently removed by their jurisdictions for their obstructionism. CalAm's manipulation wasted valuable time and added hundreds of thousands of dollars to the cost of the project, which is now going forward. In the end, LAFCO is supposed to serve the public. The residents of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District don't need another study.
90 seconds.
Thank you.
Beverly. Appreciate your public comment. I'm going to go to Michael Baer next. Michael, you're my next hand up. Go ahead and unmute and give us your 90-second comment.
Hi, my name is Michael Baer. Thank you for taking my comments. First, 5 or 6 of you voting board members live outside of CalAm's service area. You're making a consequential decision in which you have no skin in the game, by which I mean monthly water bills from CalAm with the highest rates in the nation. So you've not experienced the leaks and the bill spikes and the sometimes downright incompetence or the dozens upon dozens of mailings during a political campaign filled with misinformation, misrepresentation, and lies. So I have to ask you, don't you think it's a little unusual for so many everyday residents to organize relentlessly against a water utility? Something must be going on. Secondly, you need to understand the situation that CalAm is in with the Coastal Commission over its proposed desal plant. Have you read the Coastal Commission staff report recommending denial for a permit to build? Have you read the letters from Coastal staff about why CalAm's application is still incomplete to this date? During the break of closed session, I sent those documents to Ms. McKenna, and she acknowledged that I sent that email. I hope you will review them. Those docs show that CalAm desal is basically dead in the water. In conclusion, please follow the staff recommendation. CalAm, and do not allow CalAm and their cronies to request to expand your jurisdictional duties and increase the expense and delay of moving forwards towards acquisition negotiations on the very
Mr. Bear, you've reached
price.
90
That's
seconds.
not your job. It's one last sentence. It's on to, if negotiations fail, we're going to eminent domain. We've been on this track for 8 years. So please stay in your lane.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. I'm going to go to a phone number next. It's an 831 that ends in 312. Again, an 831 number that ends in 312. *6 will unmute your landline or cell phone and allow you to speak.
Can
Your
you
90
hear me?
seconds are now. We can.
Okay, Margaret Ann Coppernoll speaking. I'm here today to strongly urge you to support Monterey Peninsula Water District's proposal to proceed with the Measure J buyout process and parcel annexation. Why? First, in a constitutional republic, which the USA is, it is we the people who have been invested with the power to govern. Those elected or appointed to represent us, we the people, have the responsibility to represent us in good faith, in harmony and agreement with our wishes for good governance, which is our charge per the Constitution. The people voted for Measure J. The Water District is in the process of doing all that is required to overcome all hurdles and fulfill all feasibility demands in order to implement this public buyout. The Water District is not alone. Recently, the New York State Legislature passed a bill to establish a public water authority to relieve residents of American Water's expensive water bills. The majority of U.S. water companies are publicly owned. Water is an essential human right and should not be a for-profit commodity. Second, CalAm has had decades to develop an alternate water supply. Instead, CalAm has stubbornly, persistently defied the state's cease and desist orders to stop its illegal overdrawing of the Carmel River to the point of crisis. Third, under CalAm, Monterey County's water rates are among the highest in the nation. How did this happen? I have a long list, but this CalAm pricing strategy is unsustainable and unjust. It holds its ratepayers hostage to all of these untenable charges and surcharges.
Now you've
Please,
reached
I
90
urge you.
seconds.
Thank you. All right,
Okay, thank
then
you.
I'm going to go to
Best
Troy
wishes to Gail.
Ishikawa next. Troy, your opportunity is here now if you want to go ahead and share your comment.
Thank you. First, please approve Monterey Peninsula Water Management District's proposal to activate the latent powers to operate a district-wide water distribution system. The Monterey Peninsula Water Management District was created as a reaction to the 1976 drought as a means to create new water sources, encourage water conservation, and if approved, to distribute customer water. Monterey Peninsula Water Management District's conservation methods has helped reduce water consumption to under 10,000 acre-feet a year. The district has also worked jointly with Monterey One Water to produce new water sources to supply our community for decades to come. Second, the 59 parcels already served by CalAm should be annexed to the district to continue serving these customers. Finally, I strongly urge your board to vote to approve both agenda items when they come up for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. I'm going to go ahead and go to our next speaker, who is a landline 831 ending in 130. I see you're unmuted. You have 90 seconds to share your comment.
This is Barbara Moore. I'm a homeowner and resident of Monterey. I've been following the water issue for quite some period of time, and I urge the LAFCO Commission to please go ahead and not delay, not spend any more money. There have been multiple looks at the whole issue of feasibility of public ownership, and I really think to say that the water district is an interested party overstates the situation. They were charged with the responsibility to see whether or not it was financially feasible to implement public ownership. That's what they did. They did what they were required to do under Measure J, and of course they're now defending that position and putting it forward. But I think that's very different than the position of CalAm, so to equate the two, I think is really inappropriate. I urge that LAFCO please grant conditional approval to the district's request and that you not try to do any additional fiscal analysis. So please accept your staff report, move forward as quickly as you can once the application is complete. And lastly, I think you should not give CalAm more time for public comment than anybody else. There's no reason that they should have any special status, and frankly, I think it's inappropriate for them to ask. Thank you very much for taking my comments.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Peter Mountier next. Peter, I see your hand up. You now have 90 seconds to share your comment.
Hi there, thank you. I'd like to just briefly echo the comments of others here on the need for additional assessments related to the district's application, which remains incomplete. The district is initiating this action because it's legally required to under Measure J, and it must be feasible for them to do so. And given the huge disparity between the numbers that you've been provided, the district gives you a $500 million number. CalAm says it's $1 billion. Those are huge numbers, and that difference alone necessitates an independent analysis. Borrowing hundreds of millions of dollars to finance an acquisition also has implications for the district's ability to operate in the future, and ultimately the feasibility of the district's proposal. So for the sake of clarity for this process, a third-party consultant should be retained. That concludes my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to go to James Tynan next. James, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Eric Tynan, James Eric Tynan, but I run the water system in Castroville, and I was always grateful that I'd have to deal with peninsula politics. People have to remember a couple of years ago, they wanted to disband the district. Also, the district was created to create a new water supply, not to buy a water system and then try to operate it. They were all for the desal until they realized the desal would make it infeasible to buy CalAm. So suddenly they're against the desal. You would have a new water supply. Some of the people complaining have submitted documentation to the Coastal Commission when they use 4 times the average water use in the Carmel. And yet they fight affordable housing because they say they don't have enough water. It's like playing both sides of the game. I think the LAFCO needs to really do its due diligence, make sure it knows what it's doing, because if this goes south, all of a sudden bond interest rates goes up, whatever, they're going to blame LAFCO. And so you guys are doing the right thing. Just study it as much as you need to, get it right, whatever you decide, and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to go to John Tilley next. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Lopez. Thank you all LAFCO members for your hard work. The one thing I really wanted to see in this rendition of the application was the piece around a failure attempt to purchase CalAm and the resulting potential legal bill of $20 million. I saw one paragraph and it really didn't do much to convince me that a whole lot of analysis had gone into it. It was really more of a, we'll take care of it if that happens, and if we need to finance it, we can finance it, which I'm not really so sure about either. I truly expected to see a deeper analysis of the impact of losing Measure J, of losing the condemnation effort, and the impact of a $20 million liability on the balance sheet and the performance of the water district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tilley. I'm going to go to Anna Thompson next. Anna, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to echo all the people that have said to please grant conditional approval of the district's latent powers based on the court's decision. I think it should be illegal for a corporation, a monopoly in this case, to be owning our service, water service, which is an essential element that we all need, and we have no say on what we have no controls on how we're going to be served. So CalAm has all the power, has all the money, and we worked very hard to pass Measure J, and for many, many reasons, and I don't have enough time to list all the reasons why we cannot afford to continue to have CalAm owning our water delivery system. I think it should be illegal. They don't have any interest in providing the best options for us, the most environmentally safe, because the more they spend, the more they have a guaranteed profit. So it's conflicting with our public interest. Their interests are contrary to our interests. So I think that it's not right to
Thomas, you've reached 90 seconds.
Yes, please do go ahead and approve the latent power, the district's latent powers. We
Thank you,
all
Ms.
want
Thompson.
that.
Thank you.
And we have a great.
I'm going to go to Mark Kelly next. Mark, the floor is yours.
Hi. Hi, Mark Kelly. I live in Monterey. I really respect the job the board has to do. I'm from Oregon. Lived here for 4 years, which means I barely belong. But I served on a LAFCO equivalent twice in my state, or my former state, and I realized what a tough job you have. And so my only point tonight is nobody in California has ever faced a situation this large as a LAFCO for a potential financial decision. And without regard to CalAm or anybody else, you have your own independent financial decision to make. It's your responsibility to decide the feasibility of this without regard to courts or assessments or anybody else. And I would just ask you to be really thoughtful about the implications of your decision and what happens after that decision. But I have enormous respect for what's in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Appreciate your comment. I see no additional hands up at this point. Giving folks one last chance.
I would like to speak. I don't have a way of raising my hand.
Okay, Mr. Henson, go ahead. Your 90 seconds will start now.
All right. I am a former chairman of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. I've served on the board of directors of that agency twice. once in the early 80s and again in the early aughts. I think it is arrogant in the extreme to compare the interests of the water district to the bias of Cal-Am. And one is an economic interest, the other is presumably acting in the public interest. And to equate the two is irresponsible. And for you, the board, to take upon itself to second guess the water district board is also arrogant in the extreme. And the studies have been done. There's nothing that you can do that will not simply be an obstruction by Cal-Am, except for to grant a conditional approval. Ultimately, it is not your function to determine between one economic interest and this public interest, which is correct. That will be up to the court. So if you're going to honor the vote of the people and a sister agency, then you need to get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henson. I'm going to go to Sylvia Shi next. Sylvia?
Yes, I'm Sylvia from Seaside. And I feel time ticking. I feel money slipping. We pay the bill, the Cal-Am bill, and we put in 6 years effort to pass the measure so that we can somehow find an alternative, try to bring down the price to the earth. And the study, feasibility study, cost a year and $1 million, and it's very credible. And we need to go with it. I read in the LAFCO's mission, the statement is this: to encourage or encouraging local government agencies, the growth of local government agencies in order to help promote the development and the growth of the county, and which is what this will do exactly. We ratepayers are being billed whichever way it goes. It doesn't matter how much it is. It's going to be more reasonable with a public agency because we don't have the profit margin that we have to pay. So I really plead you to just do it now. You know, people are willing to wait until later. Do it now. If you are for it, if you really are encouraging,
You've reached 90 seconds.
do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, with that, we come to the end of public comments. So at this point, I'm going to close the public comment portion and bring it back to staff. Kate, in terms of next steps, what do you recommend? Give her a second to grab her microphone there.
Right. Excuse me there. At this time, we are requesting direction, Chair Lopez, from our commission as to any next steps that you consider necessary.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, I'll open the floor to commissioners and see if there's any thoughts. I think I have to ask folks to raise their hands too, because my screen's gotten all jumbled after all the public comment. I see a lot of folks who aren't commissioners on my primary screen here. Mary Ann Leffel, I see you've unmuted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, I'm very conflicted on this, but I'm trying to go back and read what the pieces that our attorney has sent us in preparation for today's meeting. And I'm trying to find them. Thank you. I made a mess.
Just
while
a
this-
reminder, Commissioner, that's all attorney-client, so let's not. get
Okay.
into that.
Okay. I guess for me, the question is whether or not we have substantial evidence. And I come from a banking background, so numbers are it's my thing. And I believe seriously that we've got to take a look and see reasonably what the cost of this is, because I don't know how anyone could do a business plan and determine what their costs are going to be if you don't know what the basic cost is in purchasing or taking over a piece of property or a business. And when I looked initially at the two numbers and the huge disparity, one is half of the other, basically, it just does not make sense to me that for my comfort level to support my community and do what's right for my community. And yes, I am one of the ratepayers for CalAm. I've lived on the peninsula since '88. I just feel like we need to have another look at the numbers and have someone who's working for us who maybe can give us something that's valid, that we can then feel comfortable with to determine if this whole thing makes sense for the community.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm going to go to Supervisor Commissioner Alejo. I see your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you for the public testimony today on this important matter that I know will continue to be ongoing. But I think one of the questions I have for our Deputy County Counsel was to indicate, Ms. Donlin, to indicate whether just under the time frame, whether we're gonna, if LAFCO chooses that it wants the independent evaluation in terms of the time frame, whether we're gonna have enough time if we wait to the September hearing, or if action could be taken today, then perhaps by September, we might be able to have that information before us, before we make a final decision within the 90 window timeframe. So that would be my question, Kelly, but I did want to just make some other comments. One was just to address the change in the staff's position. I think last time several LAFCO commissioners also expressed the same of wanting the independent evaluation, and LAFCO sent a letter to the district in March, I believe, and basically, even though we didn't get any new substance, new evidence, new information, the staff's position somehow changed. And since we're creating an administrative record here, I just wanted to reflect that the concerns of numerous commissioners were not addressed. But although the staff's position seemed to have changed by just accepting the district's word that what they provided was enough, when it clearly was not. LAFCO's position is not just to defer things to the court or just to move things along. There's a responsibility given to us under the Cortez-Knox-Hertzberg Act to make findings and put evidence on record in making our determination. And there's several critical factors, including the ability for the district to provide services that are subject to application, including sufficiency of revenues for those services. That's under section 56668 of the Cortez-Knox-Hertzberg Act. And then the district is also supposed to provide, as part of its plan, numerous things, including the estimated cost of new service to customers. So rather than just accepting the district's word for it or CalAm's word for it, we're asking now, as part of creating an administrative record, knowing that this might end up in litigation or in court, the court is going to look to the record to make sure that we had enough evidence and findings to substantiate whatever decision that we made. And so doing our due diligence and trying to create that record from the get-go means we have to try to get all the best updated information as possible and when we make a decision whether this would meet all the statutory requirements under the act. And so I think it's important that in order to carry out our responsibilities and to create that record, that independent evaluation of assets and of perhaps what the rates may be for taxpayers, we need to be able to make that decision. I'd like to always remind ourselves that this is a legislative body, a legislative branch. We're carrying out legislative duties, and that we don't defer just to the judicial branch, the third branch of government, to make decisions for us. We are empowered by the statute, by the legislature, by this agency to make these determinations. So it's incumbent upon us to take that with all due seriousness, get the information we need, create the record that we need to substantiate whatever final decision we make in this matter. And so I would urge us to do that. But I just defer to Kelly. We haven't answered the questions on timing, whether we would have enough time to request that information in September, or whether that decision to make an independent evaluation could be made today, so that we may be able to have it 60 days from now, before the 90-day deadline.
Thank you, Commissioner Alejo. The first thing I'll say is there is not a public hearing set for September yet. The application is still not complete. We're waiting for additional information from the district. So once the application is complete, we have to have the public hearing within 90 days. So we're not sure exactly when that will be yet. As far as your question, you can require additional information today. That's within the commission's discretion. You can do it today, or you can wait till the public hearing. It's within the commission's discretion.
Thank you for clarifying that.
All right, I'm going to go to the newest Apple product, Steve Snodgrass.
Isn't it a great product, Chair Lopez? I wholeheartedly support that we need a third-party study and third-party support. The question is, in my mind, is when does that occur? And I'm sort of reminded of when my son had to solve for simultaneous equations. And what I mean by that is there are variables that we just don't know here. And so what I would really like to see us do is look at the possibility of requiring those studies after the decision is made to either approve, deny, or conditionally approve, only from the standpoint that we don't know what the court's going to decide. And I agree with Commissioner Alejo that we shouldn't be passing this along to the judicial branch, but the judicial branch is the one that is going to determine the valuation. So it could be 500 million, a billion, or $1.5 billion. We don't know what that answer is. And we are bound by the law to see if there is sufficient revenues. And the way I describe it, and I'm a professional bean counter, so I think I know what I speak, is that the sufficient revenues have to cover debt service, operating costs, and reserves to the district. And there are too many unknowns here. And so we need the independent study, but the real question is, when should that occur? Should it occur after we know what the final determination of the cost of the system is, or do we do it and then we basically perform another appraisal, but ultimately that appraisal could be thrown out by the court, and our decision could be rendered incorrect by whatever the court decides.
Thank you, Commissioner Snodgrass. I'm going to go to Commissioner Poitras next.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I'm in support of third-party study. I think it's necessary. I'm no bean counter. I'm no banker. This is a lot of money, and our fundamental responsibility is to determine whether it's feasible, whether there's sufficient funds here to make this happen, and for the betterment of the ratepayers, who I happen to be one myself, for the cost to go down. I think we need some experts to look at this and give us additional information. Taking one side of it, of course, they're going to couch the numbers, in their direction. The other side's going to do the same thing. We have to try to split the line down the middle and determine what's accurate. And I think we can't do that without a third-party study. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Poitras. I'm going to go to Commissioner Oglesby next.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in support of a conditional approval tonight and to move this thing forward. I think it was said, I think Commissioner Porcher just said that he's not a bean counter, and I say that with respect. I'm not one either, but what I am is someone that represents the people that sit me here. And as we sit here today, we're talking about the ratepayers. The only reason why this is in front of us today is because the ratepayers saying they want to buy out Cal-Am, right? So I have to take a step back and say, well, what does that mean? And what it means is, no, I heard other commissioners say we should not turn over any of our authorities or responsibility to the courts, and that's not what this is. But ultimately, we know if we have a third-party reviewer go in, and I think, and we can put on the record. Let me ask our county council, our representative. It's Kelly. Are you there? Can we make Cal-Am open up their books so our third-party appraiser can find out what is the true cost of Cal-Am?
No, LAFCO doesn't have the authority to require Cal-Am to help us establish any sort of valuation.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, can we require the district to pay the cost of an additional evaluation, third-party independent evaluation, that they don't deem necessary? I understand we can condition that, but so can we do that?
Yes, LAFCO can require the district to pay the cost of that. Any sort of review.
Yeah, but doesn't that open us up more for court challenges?
We're looking at court challenges either way we go.
Right. We got you. Yeah,
I mean,
and what I'm doing is I'm doing the same thing that my good friend Supervisor Leo is doing, just trying to make the record, right? And so the point is, a third-party review without having the ability to get into Cal-Am's book, what value does that have for us?
As commission.
No, I'm just rhetorical.
All right. I thought it was another one.
So the point is, what value does it have for us? Because if the number is too close to Cal-Am's $1 billion, and I'm talking about too close could be 750 million, then the district is going to challenge that. And if it's too close to the district number by barely making $500 million, Cal-Am is going to challenge that number. But no matter what number we come up with, they're both determined that one entity is not being bought out, so they have to go to eminent domain. And I don't think our responsibility lies where if we can give, if at the end of this third-party review, our number is just as good as the number we have today. And what number we have, we don't have any number. So to say the difference between 500 million and $1 billion is so much, we have to figure it out. And then I ask you, is Cal-Am going to allow us to figure out if they're really worth $1 billion? The answer is no. Tell me how any number I come up with has any value. And so I'm not shirking my responsibility. It's just we're caught in this, this battle between these two entities. We have ability on the books. The Cornese-Knox Act allows us to approve this with conditions. The conditions is, can the ratepayers afford the cost? The only way we're going to get the true number of that cost is when they go to court, and the court will order to the best of their abilities. Maybe not order, let me take a step back. The court will ask for a valuation of that entity, and the court will determine if that's a fair number. The number we use here today, or the one we get 3 months, 6 months from now, the court is not going to entertain that number, because by the time they get to the court, it'll be 5 to 6 years old. All right. So my point is, I understand our responsibility, but I think it will delay. And I know the commissioners are not trying to delay. You know, I respect all the commissioners, and I know they're just looking for vital information. I'm just being clear that vital information will not come from this third-party review. It will allow us to use the number to either deny or approve. But again, if the number is closer to either one of them, or it's too far from either one of them, then the one of them are going to challenge it. So it seems to me that we could be better use our time. It seems to me that we don't want to be caught in the middle of this court battle, this challenges that we know are going to last for a few years. And I'm trying to figure out where does LAFCO get the money from? If all of our districts and our communities are saying we don't want to keep paying LAFCO the dues that we've been paying, where do we get the money from to be in the middle of this battle? So, again, I respect the commissioners. I know they're just trying to do what they believe is best. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Oglesby. I'm going to go ahead and go to Commissioner Rudasky next.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I made many of the same comments during our initial hearing or public discussion on this. And we do need to bring all of this forward for a full public hearing where the commission can receive additional information, all of the information, before we make decisions. And I just want to, if I could, again, like our staff is making a very clear recommendation to us right now. And I don't know if we can pull that screen back up again, or if Kate, you can just restate what the staff recommendation is at this point moving forward. But I think it's incumbent on us to listen to we have a professional, capable staff that has studied this, that is working with council and has made a clear recommendation. So if you could just restate that.
Yes, essentially, commissioners, we are recommending that based on the discussion at your April 26th meeting and all the written correspondence subsequently received, as well as public testimony received up through and including today's meeting, we are concluding that no additional information, such as an independent third-party report, other than the property tax revenue analysis already underway, is necessary for LAFCO's processing and consideration of this proposal. Therefore, no commission action, such as direction to staff to obtain consulting services, is recommended at this time.
Great, thank you. And I think that that's a really important piece of information as the commission thinks about what we're doing here. And I hear that there's a desire from my colleagues on the commission to request additional information. In some perfect world, right, we would be able to know exactly what evaluation was and to run out the numbers, but this is not a perfect situation. This is an unprecedented situation. This is not what I think was ever intended when LAFCOs were formed, that we would be in a position of having to evaluate the outcome of a potentially billion-dollar eminent domain case. And so as such, we now have to make some other thought. We have to consider other factors at this point about the cost of involving LAFCO in litigation. We have to consider what additional value would come from doing an independent evaluation study? How would that change the direction that this commission moves forward? Is it worth putting the commission and LAFCO and all of our member agencies at financial risk from the cost of being involved in what will ultimately be many years of very expensive litigation? And we haven't received information. Kelly, interrupt me if you need to, but without being very clear about what is the cost of that potential litigation, if we do move forward and say we need to get additional valuation and independent evaluation, what additional liability does that leave for the district and for each one of our agencies? And how would it ultimately change the outcome of our decision? And I'm not hearing clear answers to either one of those questions, which makes me very uncomfortable with the nature of the discussion that's taking place right now. It has been made clear to me that we can move forward and condition our approval based on the outcome of an eminent domain proceeding. And my understanding is that that would provide us with the least amount of risk as an agency while allowing the process to proceed, which I'm really still, again, not hearing any arguments about why that isn't the most prudent path forward at this point. A conditional approval that allows the eminent domain case to proceed, and ultimately will determine whether or not, based on the amount of that eminent domain conclusion of that eminent domain case, will determine whether or not the district does have the resources available to run. I don't have the language in front of me, but to operate the water district. And that's something that we as an agency, no independent study can determine what the outcome of that process will be. So I'm really unclear why we would be engaging in any kind of action that's going to slow the process down and open us up, all of us up, to costly additional risk, liability and risk. And I guess those are my thoughts. So I would caution us against giving any direction other than what staff has recommended at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to go to Commissioner Gorley next.
Yes, through the commissioner, or through the chair, Commissioner Snodgrass I'm going to yield to him for discussion and also I didn't want him to be refraining from coming out with a motion at this time. I think he might be ready for a motion on the floor, and as my alternate, I'd like for him to matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Gorley. I'm going to go to Commissioner Alejo next.
Yes, I just wanted to respond to some of the comments that got made, because although the staff changed its position for some reason, there's nothing on the record, nothing on the memo they could point to as new information that caused their decision to be changed. I just want to be clear on the record that there is no new evidence that the commission requested at our last meeting that has adequately addressed those concerns. And so that should never be a basis. And this, as appointed and elected officials, we're not in the business of just rubber stamping staff's recommendation. We are required to look at the statute and to create a record and to make a determination that is substantiated by evidence and by the record that we met those statutory requirements on whether on the feasibility of this. And we keep going around in circles when I think numerous commissioners have expressed that there is inadequate information to make that determination. We would have to take one side or the other's word for it rather than getting an independent evaluation. And the court does the same process. If it ends up in court, the judge is not an expert. They bring in experts. The experts are examined and cross-examined on their reports or their expert opinions about it. And same here, we are required to make a record. So we're trying to bring in an expert opinion, an independent evaluation, and then make that a part of the record on how we make a decision. And the court in the future, if it is litigated, they do not look at whether the information will be outdated at a future date. They look at to whether this commission, LAFCO, when it made its decision, it looks at what evidence it had before it at that time, not in 2 years, whether that information is now outdated. It looks to our decision at this time. And the statute makes clear that the court cannot impose its own opinion unless our decision was arbitrary or capricious. It must defer to the opinion that and the findings that we make. And it is because of that reason that it is critical and imperative to get that independent study and to make it part of the record. We do, local governments and local agencies do play a role that is sometimes quasi-judicial. Appeals, issues like this, we are required to create a fair process, allow public testimony, create a record. That is what we're doing now. We are carrying out those responsibilities and duties. So I think it is imperative that we not just do defer to the courts, not just take one side or the other's word for it, but rather let's get the information and let's create the record. And when we make a decision, it is going to be the best information that is possible at the time. And just because CalAm cannot be forced to open its books, it could voluntarily do it. and there is experts that can make the best evaluation based on the information available. It happens all the time with expert witnesses in court on these types of issues. So there is expertise out there to be able to do such a report. And I hope that when we do so, we put a timeline on it so that it doesn't drag on for a long time, but rather if we do request an independent report, that we get it in a timely manner so that this decision is not stalled for months on end. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Commissioner Snodgrass next.
Well, since Commissioner Gorley deferred to me on this process, I agree. I think we have agreement that we need a third-party review. I mean, that's what I've heard throughout the board. And the question again comes down to, at what point in time does that get done? And quite frankly, the motion that I would make is that we basically have the rate study reviewed by an independent third party, that we ensure that there are sufficient revenues to cover not only the operating costs of the district, but the cost of acquiring the system, as well as establishing sufficient reserves to operate the system. And that we basically, so at this time, we don't require any additional information, but what we do in September, that we wait until September. And again, I think this motion is probably premature, but in September, what we should do is come up with all the conditions that we want, because at that point in time, the eminent domain proceeding, if we have 3 conflicting valuations, which one rules? The LAFCO one may not rule. And so at that point in time, if one of the other valuations is used, our decision process is moot and doesn't make any sense. So the motion I would make is that let's have all the conditions that we would impose today, all the studies we would impose today, but let's push those down the line to the future. And we're not shirking our responsibility. We're not kicking the can down the road. What we're doing is we're taking a conservative approach that basically we have all the information and we have solid information in front of us to which we can make a decision as to whether or not there are sufficient revenues for the district to operate the system.
Was that clear to council and staff in the form of a motion?
It was clear to me. I'll let Kate speak, but again, we don't know when this public hearing is going to be. The application's not complete. And so when you all say September, maybe the better way to say it would when the public hearing goes forward on the application.
Kate?
Yes, thank you. I agree. No additional comments.
Okay. I got a motion then but no second, and I see a hand up from Poitras. Commissioner, you're muted.
Sorry about that. My dog was barking and I had to make sure you didn't hear that. Anyway, I think it's our responsibility to get as much information as possible. And I don't think we can make a decision, an effective decision, a knowledgeable decision without a third-party study. I just don't think it's possible. It's in the interest of the community, the public, even people who voted for Measure J, and perhaps some who didn't. The bottom line is it feasible? How can we establish that with the information we have right now? I don't think we can. That's why I support an independent review. Thank you.
To the chair, I second the motion.
Okay, so we've got a second from Mayor Oglesby. Any additional conversation?
I'm not clear on what the motion is. There was a lot of additional commentary made to the motion. I think we should have a clear and concise motion because it sounded like we were deferring for a third-party independent study to take place when perhaps the commission might consider providing that direction and including that the district pay for that and providing a timeline of when that study should come back to this agency.
Okay, so there's a question for clarification. Commissioner Snodgrass, on your motion, do you mind restating it?
Okay, I think to be succinct about it, the motion would be that that LAFCO decide what studies it would like done in order to support the revenue requirement sufficient to cover the cost of the district, but those studies be performed after the eminent domain proceedings and the true value of the district is determined.
That's not an adequate part of the process. Once there are eminent domain proceedings, we've basically forfeited our responsibilities to make a determination whether this meets the requirements under the Cortez-Knox Act. That is a separate part of the process. The eminent domain is not part of LAFCO's duties. We would basically be deferring and then expecting that it's going to come back to us. When eminent domain, it's a procedure that is basically forcing assets into a sale, and you're basically negotiating what is the true value of that. We will no longer be in an opportunity to make a determination whether this meets the requirements of the Cortez-Knox Act at that point in time. So I would make a substitute motion that we move forward and ask for an independent study today, that the district be required to pay for it, and that study be brought back to us perhaps within 90 days if that is feasible.
Yeah, and I defer to Kelly Donlin to answer the question as to, do we have any say after the eminent domain?
Well, first off, we do have a second on the motion, so we can't have a substitute. We need to vote on the original motion. I need to remind you all, this isn't the public hearing. You need to hear this application at the public hearing, and then you can either approve, deny, or conditionally approve. As part of those conditions, one potential condition, which is expressly written in Cortez-Knox, is that the district will have sufficient revenues, and that's specific to the latent power. So as far as what you're considering, I think what I'm hearing, Commissioner Snodgrass, is just that this third-party review not take place, and that LAFCO staff work on this and consider conditions depending on after we look at this application and we really tee it up for the public hearing. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, which we started to do at the April study session too, if that makes sense.
But Ms. Donlin, you said that we could provide that direction today.
Commissioner, I'm going to go through order here. I do have other hands up, so if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to go to, I've got a motion on the floor with a second, and I have a substitute motion that's been entered, but I still have hands up on conversation. And I see.
Point of
go ahead, Supervisor Alejo.
It's a point of parliamentary procedure because Ms. Donlin opined that we would have to vote on the original motion, but under Robert's rules, an alternative motion or a substitute motion has precedence, and that gets voted on first. And if it fails, then it goes back to the original motion.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to Mary Ann Leffel, Commissioner Leffel next.
Okay, I want to clarify something. Did I hear or did I read that our staff has said that this is deemed complete?
Commissioner Leffel, you did not read that. The application remains in an incomplete status. There is one outstanding item.
So it's incomplete as long as we get the information with the county and the district on the taxes.
Information from, actually the incomplete item has to do with a study being conducted right now by the district with respect to an analysis of the proposed reduction in annual property tax revenue to some of our local government agencies.
But as of today, that is the only thing that we are saying is not to be given to us for us to make a decision. Is that correct?
We are saying that is the only item that is preventing your executive officer from determining that the application is incomplete. Once we get that analysis, then my responsibility would be to schedule the application for a public hearing within 90 days of my determination. And at that time, in the context of a complete application, the commission does have the authority and the discretion to require any additional information or analysis that it may determine necessary in order to render a decision on this proposal.
So to be fair, if there is a majority that would prefer to have another piece of information added to the list of what we need to make a decision, rather than delay that request for 90 days, wouldn't it be more fair that we direct staff today that we would like to have that added as a requested item so that the district can begin to prepare it?
That additional information that would be requested would not be an incompleteness matter. The decision about completeness, incompleteness was made by your staff, by me, in March. And so this would be under the category of additional information required for the commission to conduct its statutory responsibilities to analyze the proposal and make a decision. It would fall outside of a completeness review.
Anything else,
Okay.
Commissioner Leffel?
No, that satisfies my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Askew.
So I hear Commissioner Snodgrass asking for sort of a list of conditions that the commission could put on a conditional approval. Are those is part of, and those conditions would be determined or agreed to at the public hearing. So would it be fair to ask that staff bring back a set of options for conditional approval so that that address some of the concerns that are being raised by commissioners about valuation, about the ability to raise revenues sufficient to pay for those the cost of running the district. I hear, if I'm clear, Steve, your motion that's seconded right now, that's on the floor, would be, and it sounds like we're not in a position to be able to make a conditional approval at this time because we haven't had the public hearing, but maybe amending your motion so that it's asking staff to bring forward what those conditions might be would allow action to be taken today.
Yeah, I would accept that amendment. The purpose of my motion really was that, should we be asking for additional studies today, or should we be asking for in the future? And since the application is incomplete as it stands right now, it would make sense for us to define what is the information that we want, whether we want it in the September timeframe, or whether we want it after the eminent domain. The information, in my mind, is one and the same. It's just a question of timing. And so, if we direct staff to come up with what those studies would be, I think that's I would accept that amendment, and it makes perfect sense to me, assuming that Mayor Oglesby will agree with the amendment as well.
I see a thumbs up. I'll ask for verbal confirmation for the recording.
Yes, I'm sorry, Chair. I agree.
Thank you. Okay, I see a hand up from, I think the first one I got was Poitras.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with us putting this off. It seems like we're taking it out of order, really. We've given notice, I think, by virtue of our discussion that some of us, perhaps a majority, are interested in additional information. That notice, by virtue of this meeting, has been given to the district that has brought the application. If the application is not completed this time, they can either begin looking toward supplying the information some of us would ask for or not. But it seems like it's premature at this point. We need to have the hearing And I guess at that point, we can decide whether or not we have sufficient information or not. At this point, I don't think so. Perhaps things will change once the hearing is complete. But notice has been given that some of us are not completely satisfied with the way things stand at the moment as far as the information is concerned. And we will likely look for more information when it's appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Poitras. Commissioner Alejo.
Yeah, I made a substitute motion hoping that there might be a second. The reason is because once our director makes a determination that it is complete, that sets off the 90 days. And rather than having a hearing within the 90 days and then saying, we need an independent evaluation, which would then create another hearing, we have the opportunity now to provide that direction. And it's not going to be the district providing that information. That we would be saying, we're going to get an independent evaluation, the district's going to pay for it, so that when the hearing is set, within 90 days, when our executive director has made a determination of completeness, then hopefully that study will come to us at that time, and we could utilize that information in making that decision within the 90 days. That is where the timing is. Here, we're going to defer to a hearing perhaps in September or October, and then we're going to say what we're saying now. We need an independent evaluation, and then I don't know if the statute then allows the hearing to be postponed outside of the 90-day window to be able to get that information at a later date. We have the opportunity now to not delay it. If the majority wants to move with that, provide the direction so that we could get it at the hearing that will be set by our director within that 90-day window.
Okay.
So point of clarification, Commissioner Alejo, could you clarify the motion, the substitute motion that you made then? I know you just explained it, but just in one fell swoop so that because we'll take that one first.
Yes, it would be to require an independent study that would be paid by the district, and that it should be provided to us by the hearing date set by LAFCO.
Okay. Is there a second for the substitute motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a second on the substitute motion, so that's on the floor now. I'm going to go to Mr. Snodgrass, who has his hand up. Commissioner Snodgrass.
So just a question for Kelly Donlin. Kelly, if we ask for additional studies to be made after the application is complete, is there any time frame that we're under that precludes that?
As we've discussed, once the application is deemed complete, we have to have the public hearing within 90 days. At the public hearing, if you feel additional information is necessary, you do have the authority to continue that hearing.
So what you're saying is that if we want additional information, I'm not saying we have an unlimited time frame, but we certainly have a time frame that is much greater than 90 days.
Yes, if you require that at the public hearing.
Okay. Any additional discussion from commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and call the vote on the substitute motion.
Commissioner Alejo?
Aye.
Commissioner Craig?
Yes.
Commissioner Vorley? Commissioner Snodgrass, are you voting for Commissioner Vorley?
I assume I am, and my vote is nay.
Okay. Commissioner Leffel?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
No.
Commissioner Poitras?
Yes.
We have 5 ayes and 2 noes.
So the substitute carries, which no longer gives us an initial motion to vote on, correct, council?
Correct. And obviously I need to bone up on my Robert's rules, but yes, that's correct.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. With that, we have concluded this item unless there's additional input from commissioners. Okay, then we have wrapped this item. We're going to move on to our next item, which is item number 12, new business, considering a report on proposed and anticipated city growth in Soledad and Gonzales. And I'll kick that over to our executive director.
Thank you, Chair Lopez, members of the commission. Contained in your agenda packet is some information titled Agenda Item Number 12, pertaining to proposed and anticipated city growth in the cities of Soledad and Gonzales. Tonight, we are prepared to provide brief orientation to the commission with the latest information about these very important proposals, one of which is before us now, and the other of which will be coming to us in the future. At this time, the city of Soledad, Jonathan, if you could please move forward. Our purpose today is to provide this orientation to you in the form of updates from your LAFCO staff, as well as the staff from both of our cities. As part of the updates, we will highlight some of the important legislative purposes of LAFCO and related policies that must be considered in the consideration or in the future analysis, and to request any direction and actually just to request some discussion amongst our commissioners and any members of the public pertaining to these public policy matters. As you can see from that small map on the slide, the cities that we are addressing tonight are Gonzales and Soledad, separated by about 8 to 9 miles. Next slide, please. The City of Soledad has an application that is on file with the Local Agency Formation Commission. It's been with us since March of 2020. The current status of this proposal is that it is incomplete. We are working with the city staff to address those incomplete items, and you can see the red area on the map to the north of the current city limits. This is about a 647 acre area, a portion of which is hillside, a portion of which is currently productive agricultural lands. Proposed are approximately 2,392 single family and multi-family dwelling units, as well as 9 acres for commercial development, 22 acres for 2 elementary schools, a fire station, police substation site, and about 200 acres of parks and open space. Next slide, please. The City of Gonzales anticipates submitting annexation proposals to LAFCO that would consist of, on the north end there, Vista Lucia, which is approximately a 768 acre development plan, which currently the city and property owners are preparing a specific plan. The objective of this proposal would be approximately 3,498 single family and multifamily dwelling units. The Vista Lucia project would also include 8 acres for commercial and mixed use development, 2 school sites, and 79 acres of parks and open space. This area is currently in the city's sphere of influence and only needs an annexation. On the south side of just south and east of the city is the proposed Puente del Monte project, which consists of 547 acres The status of this development plan is that again, a specific plan is currently under preparation for approximately 2,623 single and multifamily dwelling units, 43 acres for commercial development, 21 acres of light industrial development, 6 acres of mixed use development, and 53 acres for parks and open space. And I forgot to mention that the City of Soledad proposal does include not only an annexation, but would include the a sphere of influence amendment. The Gonzalez annexation proposals are entirely inside a sphere of influence that was approved by this commission a few years ago. Next slide, please. Here we have a brief summary of the comparing the geographic area, both existing and proposed housing units. As you can see, the proposed increase in geographic area of both cities is quite large, approximately 44% increase for the currently on file Soledad application, and the two annexation proposals for the City of Gonzalez would increase the current city limits by more than 100%. On the housing unit side there, as you can see, the proposed annexation and sphere of influence amendment would increase housing units by about 58% as compared to the current housing unit count, or as of 2020. And for the City of Gonzalez, both proposals taken together for the City of Gonzalez would result in an increase of about 300% population I'm sorry, 300% increase in the number of housing units as compared to existing housing units. The scope of these proposals is unprecedented, at least in, I would say, the last 20 years of LAFCO's history with respect to the scale of increase for geographic areas and increase in housing units. Next slide, please. So as these proposals move forward in the LAFCO process, our responsibility is to balance several things. Of course, there are the housing components and economic development needs of both of our cities. We also have a need to address various state mandates and local policies that address orderly development, prevention of urban sprawl, delivery of efficient urban services with protection of agricultural lands and open space. In addition, because both of these very important proposals are tracking along on roughly the same calendar, it is important that your staff give consistent and fair consideration of these proposals as we move both of them through the LAFCO process. Next slide, please. Here we've outlined the primary foundations for LAFCO's future analysis. And in this case, of course, we're talking about analysis of annexation and sphere of influence proposal for the City of Soledad, and strictly annexation proposals perhaps for the City of Gonzalez. We've got several underpinnings to that foundation. And if you could please move ahead there, Jonathan. The first one is our very familiar legislative purposes and mission. that I won't read all of this, but certainly our charge under state law is to make sure that we address the logical formation and determination of local agency boundaries. We're looking for orderly development and balancing all of that with local and state competing interests pertaining to preserving our open space and prime agricultural lands, ensuring compact urban growth and discouraging urban sprawl, and efficiently extending local municipal services. In addition, the state requires LAFCO to recognize that providing housing for all persons, all families, is an important factor in promoting orderly development. Next slide. Our commission also, over the last 30 or more years, has developed various policies and procedures that have been adopted by your commission pertaining to annexations. And we have just summarized those here, or at least the sections, everything from the urban economics, delivery of service, urban development patterns, phasing of development and annexations, provision for ensuring adequate groundwater, addressing traffic impacts in the region, again, preservation of open space and ag lands, and addressing housing and jobs considerations. All of these, those policies are summarized in one of the attachments in the staff report. I believe it's attachment 12.3. We've summarized 30 years of policies and practices on one page for your information. And then another part of the framework for LAFCO's consideration are memorandums of agreement. These agreements are required, or at least encouraged under state law, prior to adoption of a sphere of influence amendment by the LAFCO Commission. In the case of the city of Soledad, a memorandum of agreement was executed with the county. I think someone said, we've got some feedback there. Both of our cities, that is both cities of Soledad and Gonzales, have executed these agreements with the County of Monterey in the 2014 to 2016 or 2017 horizon. These agreements provide for a sense of logical and orderly development and growth patterns intended to encourage future city growth in certain directions and to protect our very important agricultural economy and in the agricultural areas that surround these cities. The memorandums of agreement also address the phasing of development and annexations and encourage each of our cities to develop specific plans that address phasing for the infrastructure and various other municipal services that will be required in time to come, as well as a financing plan. So all of those things are going to be part of the future analysis of both the current application that we have from the city of Gonzales and the anticipated proposal or proposals that we will receive from the city of Gonzales. And our recommendation today is that you receive not only this brief staff report, but also hear from representatives from the cities of Soledad and Gonzales that have very patiently stuck with us through our evening meeting. My intention, our LAFCO staff intention here is to continue coordinating with the cities regarding their respective proposals and to continue coordinating as well with other affected local agencies and interested parties and stakeholders in the process. So that completes my orientation this evening, and I'd like to suggest, Chair Lopez, that you call upon our city representatives. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a volunteer's tribute? Either Mr. Slama or Mr. Mendez want to go first?
I'll go first.
All right.
You, Supervisor Lopez. I'll just get it over it. I think I have a little bit few more slides than Brent. Me and Matthew, son of Community Development Director, will be teaming this. I'm just going to walk you through some stuff real quickly. I appreciate the opportunity to present the update. So Jonathan, if you can go the next slide, please. So presentation agenda, introducing myself. I also have our Deputy City Manager, Mark Hartunian, on as well. So ideally, we will provide an update and refrain from addressing in detail the points mentioned in the staff report. This is an update. I'm not intending to provide a city response to all the points raised in the staff report. I feel it's got a little bit premature. The application is not in front of you yet. We are working on the application. We are abiding by the MOA and our sphere and everything. So I'm going to provide a quick recap. Matthew will give you a really quick summary of where we're at with the specific plans and timing of the LAFCO application for both Vista Lucia and Puente del Monte. I think we have some of our landowners, partners, and our developing partners on as well. And then we'll just kind of summarize why we think this is important. You can move forward, Jonathan. So we've been at this for 15 years. No surprise, been working with Kate. I think we kind of started almost at the same time, a little bit after. So this is not a surprise. For those of you, I'd be remiss to say we're approaching this the way we always approach things in the city of Gonzales, for the betterment of our community, understanding our responsibility for the region, and our obligations per state law and CEQA and everything. You can move on. So obviously, we adopted our specific plan procedures in 2008, which we're using to guide ourselves. Our general plan was adopted in 2010, updated in 2018. We adopted a climate action plan in 2013, updated in 2018. And the real point of presenting this is economic viability, diversify and grow, environmental responsibility, do the right thing, and social equity. And I think most of us can appreciate the social equity component, especially after the post-pandemic, that really brought to the surface a lot of the issues that we know existed. If we can move forward. Our housing element, we've updated our housing element. We added a health and wellness element added to the general plan. And we, like Kate presented, we did adopt an MOA with the County of Monterey when we expanded our sphere of influence. And that Commissioner Gorley and others that were on there, either here or on the commission, realized that this was our sphere of influence was really signaling to the world that we were looking at a larger area. It's not conceivable to continue to bring the opportunities needed for our community, the economic development, the housing, and do in small pieces. I think the last year and a half kind of shows some of the challenges that created the way we approached it in the past. So we clearly signaled that we've had the growth path for the future. So we're moving east and we're staying within our boundaries. The MOA does require us to establish policy, procedures, and agreements that we need to be following and are developed. And it also has a penalty, a disincentive provision should the city decide to overreach. But we signaled to LAFCO, we sent it to the county and everybody that we were going in a direction east. If you can move forward. Also, what have we been doing? Since we increased our sphere, obviously we've done a lot of the studies and plans that were approved by our council 2019, drainage, water, wastewater, and transportation, all the big pieces that we need to do in the development, which is really one of the reasons why we are contemplating presenting an application to LAFCO or applications to LAFCO with a larger area because of the infrastructure challenges and costs that we need to be able to adequately address in a responsible manner. That by no way means that 1,000 homes will be built tomorrow or 500 homes will be built tomorrow or in 5 or 10 years. But it does allow us to plan responsibly, work with our partners, which the county is a big part of it. Kate did talk about the importance of ag. For the city of Gonzales, and I think for all our communities, that goes without saying. Our economic development strategy in this city has been ag, our industrial park, and the thousands of jobs that have been created over the last 20 years. So part of that responsibility was adopting ag mitigation program, which we did with the committee that we comprised of the county, so our supervisor, our 5th District Supervisor Lopez, and County Ag Commissioner, a representative for agriculture, which was Dio Rigos and Mr. John Culligan, the Ag Land Trust of Monterey County, Aaron Johnson, the building industry represented by Matt Gorley, and 2 council members, our Mayor Pro Tem Scott Funk and Councilmember Liz Silva. So we worked through several months of trying to go through various versions of ag mitigation program that we're pleased was approved by the committee earlier this year, and will be part of the application process when it's submitted to LAFCO. You can move on. Just kind of other things along the way that's happened in 15 years. There is really showcases the city's responsibility to our obligation to our community and to the region. Founding member of Monterey County Housing Trust. So we've been doing a lot of work in housing. Obviously, like everybody else, survived the major recession. We seem to be coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, which really spotlighted the need for housing, really highlighted the overcrowding and some of the other social discrepancies and impacts that we have been all trying to work through. I think it's also important to point out that while we have not been able to build houses, I think we've done a really remarkable job in bringing jobs to the city and the region. That should not be understated. And so when you're looking at a city that's been at 8,400 people for years, and we've generated all these jobs, where do folks live? And so that's part of what we've been trying to wrestle with and deal with for decades. Housing, no surprise, we have not built a single family home in Gonzales, a new division in 2006. And we have not built a major apartment since 2009. So like many cities, many parts of the region and the county, there's a dire need for housing in Gonzales and the Monterey County. So this is just to kind of set why we're presenting what we're presenting. We can move forward, Jonathan, thank you, that was great. So as Kate mentioned, we have 2 annexation areas. Vista Lucia, which is the Pembroke development, and Puente del Monte, Jackson Family Investment, Arianda family. We are in the midst of doing everything that needs to be done to submit an applications to LAFCO by the end of the year. We will continue to work with your staff. We understand the policies. We've actually provided a lot of input in some of the policies that LAFCO has generated over the years. So we get that. But we also, I think, need to bring the reality of what today is. And maybe it doesn't necessarily fit policies that were put in place 10, 20, or 30 years ago. So that's what we hope to work through. I'm going to ask Matthew to give you sort of a brief summary of how the developments, what we're reviewing and considering right now. Matthew?
Yes. Good evening, LAFCO commissioners and members of the public. Matthew Sant, Community Development Director, City of Gonzales. Can we go to the next slide, please, Jonathan? So the background on Vista Lucia, 2001, Fano Ranch, first introduced to the community of Gonzales as a future urban expansion area with potential to accommodate 3,500 residential units. 2006, first iteration called the Cielo Grande Ranch, presented to City Council. And then we jump forward to 2017, sphere of influence agreement between Pembroke, who's the applicant and developer for Vista Lucia, and the Jackson Family Investments Rianda Farms, who are the applicants and developer for Puente del Monte. This time span between 2006 and 2017, I'm sure most of you know, we went through major economic upheaval that slowed down development in Gonzales and throughout the country. 2021, 2 joint workshops were held with the Gonzales City Council and the Planning Commission on the Vista Lucia specific plan. Let's go to the next slide, Jonathan, thank you. Summary of Vista Lucia, 3,500 residential units to accommodate all income levels to be built over a period of time as the market dictates. two major development areas, Village 1 and Village 2. Village 1 is the west portion, Village 2 the east portion. Multiple development phases within each of these village areas. First, Village 1 is approximately 1,861 units. I want to point out development of Vista Lucia will go from west to east. It will roll out to the east. 3 school sites. First school located on Fano Road, second and third schools in Village Area 2. Permanent buffers on periphery and rolling buffers as project moves from west to east. 2 tentative maps totaling 401 units currently proposed and combined with a specific plan. Complete infrastructure development, wastewater, water, stormwater, parks, roads, community amenities, etc. Affordable housing, workforce housing, and diverse housing opportunities. Next slide, Jonathan, thank you. Nice graphic. Vista Lucia specific plan, villages 1 and 2. So within this, there is Village 1 and Village 2. I'll pause on this for a moment. You'll see the Highway 101 bending to the left, bending to the west. And further to the west of this graphic, you'll see a vertical Alta Street running straight up and down. At the top of the Vista Lucia specific plan is currently called the Associated Lane. So you can see that this Vista Lucia is flanked to the north by Associated Lane, flanked to the east by Iverson Road, and then flanked to the south by existing current ag lands. Next photo, next slide, thank you. This is Puente La Monte. This is, as Kate had mentioned earlier, this is on our south side, south and east side of the sphere of influence, east of Highway 101. In 2009, Jackson Family Investments commences with Puente Del Monte specific plan. 2017, they also signed the sphere of influence agreement. And September 21st, coming up July and September of this year, Jackson Family Investments will be presenting to Joint Planning Commission and City Council meetings their Puente Del Monte specific plan. Next slide, please. A summary of Puente Del Monte, 2,600 residential units. They also have 2 major areas of development. They call theirs west and east. Multiple development phases, 2 school sites, light industrial district flanking Gloria Road, permanent buffers on periphery and rolling buffers as project moves from west to east, complete infrastructure development, wastewater, water, stormwater, parks, roads, community amenities, etc. And also, as would be expected, affordable housing, workforce housing, and diverse housing opportunities. Next slide, Jonathan. And this is what the Puente Del Monte project looks like. It's flanked to the south at the bottom of your screen, flanked by Gloria Road, and it's flanked on the east side by Iverson. So you probably get the hint that Iverson Road goes from Gloria Road all the way up to Associated Lane and flanks a big chunk of our sphere of influence area. The blue color in this, just to give you some context, the blue color in this plan at the point, the sharp point at the intersect of Gloria Road and Iverson, that's a proposed industrial area, light industrial area. Next slide, please, Jonathan. I will then defer to Renee and finish out. Thank you.
So thank you. Just trying to kind of run through this real quick. Thanks, Matthew. As you see, we are working through putting all this together. I think as a city, one of the things I'm trying to convey to the commission is that we are ready for our next growth phase, what that phase will be. I think we have developed the policy, procedures, and vision, and the engagement process to grow responsibility. From the city's perspective and the council's very clear, the planning commission, and I'm working with our partners, it's difficult and we can no longer plan to grow in small increments, expect to develop and fund all the necessary infrastructure needed. More importantly, build the housing and balanced community needed in the 21st century. And again, even more importantly, provide the opportunities for our community. We are where we're at because of what we've done in the past. As we move forward, we are prepared to work with LAFCO, work with your staff to move forward and build the community that we're all going to be proud of. And our final slide, Jonathan, is again, I want to highlight, well, to before the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly highlighted that we cannot expect to keep doing what we always do and expect different results. And we and Kate have been talking about this, and we will continue to work through this. I mean, I think we all feel this way, right? Our communities are serving the best amenities, affordable housing, all the housing products and types to fit all income levels. And I think importantly, to dream and aspire. So in conclusion, thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to working with LAFCO as we continue to move our projects forward. Thank you, Supervisor, Chair.
Thank you, Renee. I'm going to go ahead and take it over to Brent and maybe Mayor Velasquez, who's a member on the commission, to show us what the beautiful city of Soledad has planned.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here, and I'm going to thank our colleagues from the city of Gonzales for really going through a number of these items for us already, because they're very similar to each of our cities, and the growth that's going on, and development and future development. As we talked about, we are a little further along in the process in the city of Soledad with the Miramonte project. And one of the things that I want to talk about is how we're getting to that. Like the city of Gonzales, we've gone through a number of these processes. I've been here with the city for 9 years. This project has been with us the whole time. It well predates me as well, going well back. But these types of projects take a long time. This is California. Building housing takes a long time, especially when you throw LAFCO in the picture and you're talking about potential annexations. There's no way around it. You all know we have a housing crisis. As the staff report states, an acute demand for additional housing in the Salinas Valley and countywide. You can look at all the statistics. I know you're all professionals. You know that's the case. You see the lack of availability in the rental market. You see the lack of availability in the for sale market, and the prices that continue to go up. Unfortunately, growth is happening regardless of the housing units we're able to construct. What that means is when there's opposition to constructing housing, you drive up housing costs and you result in even more overcrowding. People living in garages, people doubling up, tripling up. We all know that. We have been able to build recently. We have been having a number of successful developments, and we are growing, but we are in a situation where we are reaching build out. We, unlike the city of Gonzales, have not amended our sphere of influence in a long time. And one of the things that we think about when we talk about that is the way the city is laid out and the way the property owners that we have next to us. We have very limited number of property owners adjacent to us that represent large ranches and large interests. And so when we talk about how we're looking at our growth, this is something that it's important that we consider. One of the things is that, as you know, that was mentioned is about housing numbers. Those continue to go up. The demand from the state will continue to go up. And all the policies and procedures in the world, there is no way we're going to be able to ADU ourselves out of the housing crisis. And so it becomes incumbent on us to grow out. We are going to run out of room very soon of developable parcels, and we have to look toward the next phase. Knowing that these projects take years to do, this is something that we're looking at definitely now, and we have an application in front of LAFCO that is currently incomplete, and we're working to make that application complete. Two things. One is housing, the need for housing. Second is the need for infrastructure. This was emphasized by my colleagues from the city of Gonzales, and I will say the same thing. Case in point, all of you that travel down 101 know that there are two ways to get in and out of Soledad on 101. These interchanges are built a long time ago and have not been upgraded. This is going to really define our ability to grow as a community, to provide more jobs, more housing. We need to be able to change those interchanges, to increase the interchanges. The only way we are going to be able to increase the interchanges is through large-scale planning. If we do piecemeal annexations, we're not going to get there. As was mentioned by Gonzales, the infrastructure needs are critical to look at big picture. We need to be able to improve our infrastructure in a number of areas. And if we piecemeal that, those types of improvements are just not going to happen on that type of scale. That being said, I think it's strongly considered in this staff report that we believe in phased development. certainly want to make sure that everything gets done orderly, but also development certainty, that's a part of it. Definitely it's something that we want to make sure that we can do. We fully believe that development can be phased appropriately, but it's something that we also believe can be handled by our professional staff. And I want to thank all our staff that's here today. We have a number of teams, both in-house and consultant staff, that are here monitoring these proceedings today. We are moving forward on a revised application, as the executive officer said. It will address a number of the issues presented in the staff report in terms of what is needed. We've taken a little different approach to ag mitigation, primarily because of as I mentioned before, the limited number of property owners that would be involved in such a program over the next 20 to 30 years, that it made more sense to work on this directly as compared to a one-size-fits-all approach. But that's because we're different. And recognizing that our city is different and our neighboring cities are different, when we approached our agreement with the county, we all did differently. And so it's important to recognize that the city and county, the city of Soledad, as of 2016, has an adopted agreement for future growth. And I'm going to bring that up now. And I think this is the most important thing to look at, is where this big picture project fits into the growth. Obviously, when we worked with the county to develop this MOU, there were considerations. There are a number of prime considerations the city gave up in exchange in this agreement. One, as you can see, is our commitment not to grow on the other side of 101, in deference to the quality of the agricultural lands that are there, potentially giving up commercial development opportunities and other things. What we try to do is get ourselves away from that, and that's where this particular project Miramonte is. A number of that runs up against a 400-foot contour, and we're not going past that in terms of development, but offering open space. This project, once we address the issues identified in the LAFCO application, or the incompleteness letter, will be consistent with the Monterey County City of Soledad MOU. And as such, we're looking to move forward and implement that. This agreement, as has been said before, holds great weight in your considerations. And that's what we're trying to do, is follow through with the agreement that we've laid out with the county. We understand that each city has their own agreements. We know that the county looks at the development as a whole with the other cities on how that goes. And our goal is to make sure that we can proceed as was outlined in our agreement, and that we can provide the housing opportunities, and that we can provide the opportunities to build the infrastructure necessary to make the next phase. I think some of the discussion today was about how big, or is it right? You have within your packet the application material, or the map for the project itself. I as well don't want to dwell on the details of that, because this isn't a public hearing on that project. It's more of a big picture look at things. But certainly more than happy to answer questions as they arise. As far as the City of Soledad, we're grateful for the opportunity to be here and grateful to discuss. And I don't know, Mayor Velasquez, if you had any follow-up comment you'd like to make on behalf of the City of Soledad.
Thank you, City Manager Salama. Thank you for that. And thank you for pointing out some of the needs that we have in the City of Soledad. And obviously, as mentioned, it's different, but I do want to go back to just, what we know, especially with the pandemic and prior to the pandemic, that we do have a housing crisis. And in the City of Soledad, what we have seen and experienced within our community has been that overcrowding, and being able to provide that housing opportunity that is needed. Also looking at the lack of availability of land that we have. I mean, we are surrounded within our South County cities with ag land, and being able to compromise how we grow, and being able to grow, as was mentioned, in an orderly fashion and planned fashion. But it is instrumental that we also look at this at a larger scale. And I know that it's been mentioned that it's been unprecedented for these two cities. However, we do need that scale of growth in order to be able to accommodate for some of the infrastructure needs that need to happen along with the development. So I think we are at that point in time that this annexation, although it is 47% increase of our growth, it is something that is much needed. And like the city of Gonzales, the city of Soledad has also looked at the jobs housing balance and how do we really look at the economic development piece and being able to be mindful of that as well as we are entertaining the growth of the city, but much needed in order for us to be able to provide the housing and the quality of life that we need for our residents. So I thank you for consideration on this application.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to the whole team from Soledad and the team from Gonzales. With that, we have received the update. I want to see if there's any questions from commissioners. Okay, seeing none, I'll take it out to the public, see if we have any public input on this item. I see a hand up from John Farrow. John, we'll go ahead and give you 90 seconds. The floor is yours. John, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Landwatch. Their interest in this is to make sure that there's affordable housing serving the needs of those who work in and around these two communities, that housing is provided concurrently and integrated into each neighborhood, that they minimize VMT by attaining a jobs housing balance, do so with a phasing plan, and that they honor the ag land mitigation that's LAFCO's business, making sure it's been done concurrently as part of the application. We've commented extensively to both cities on these plans, and we've got 5 major concerns. First, the plans are way too big. They should be scaled back to meet the demand that's required in the next 25 years. Soledad's proposing 2,300 units. They only need about 400 over the next 25 years. Gonzales is proposing 6,000. They need about 1,900 over the next 25 years. These figures are based on AMBAG's forecast of housing growth and the city's own housing elements identifying existing infill sites. Second, the plans lack the density required for lower income units. 40% of those units should be affordable to lower income based on the most recent RENA and the expected RENA obligations. Neither city proposes to zone to meet that requirement. Soledad's proposing about 18% high density, Gonzales 15 to 22%. That's not enough. Third, the plans fail to integrate affordable housing or to provide it concurrently. You got to meet your RENA cycle every 8 years. Neither city proposes concurrent development of affordable housing or integrating it into
Farrow, you've
their
reached 90
plans.
seconds.
All right, thank you. We appreciate
Thank
the
you, Mr.
opportunity to
Farrow.
comment and look forward to participating.
All right, I see no other public hands up at this point, so I'm going to close the public comment portion of this agenda and I'm going to bring it back. I see a hand up from Supervisor Alejo, Commissioner Alejo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment that the demand is big because the housing crisis is big, not only in Monterey County, but throughout California. So when I look at Soledad or Gonzales, I want to really thank the city councils there, the city managers, the staff who are, I mean, it just, this unfortunate part of this is that it takes so long. As they've said, 10, 15 years just to get to this point where they're now in the proximity in the very near future of coming to LAFCO for asking for this analysis on this annexation and on their modification of their sphere of influence. But I praise them because they're trying to meet the needs of their community. I know Mayor Craig and I feel the same about trying to meet the needs of our Salinas residents, where in places like East Salinas, we have some of the highest housing density, meaning overcrowded conditions, probably anywhere in California. But when you talk about Gonzales and Soledad building housing, they were critics when they built housing numerous years ago, maybe 10, 20 years ago when they had their last round of developments. But you look at who is living there today. Today in Soledad, this was last census. We will likely get the more updated 2020 census numbers, but the numbers from 2010 had Soledad at almost 73% Latino. When you talk about meeting the needs of all Californians, but now you're talking the people who make up the majority of Monterey County residents, 60%, people who make the largest percentage of the workforces in hospitality and in agriculture. Yes, we have to be ambitious here because the need is so great. The suffering and overcrowding is so great. And I was looking at the news articles not too long ago. In January, the Monterey Herald had an article that the average price 6 months ago for a medium-sized home, single-family home in Monterey County was $865,000. For me, you just imagine what it would take a family to pay a mortgage on almost $1 million home and to pay the taxes on that on an annual basis. It seems almost impossible. And as long as we're not building more housing to meet the needs of our residents, we will see this crisis accumulate and worsen and having lifelong implications for those families and their children to not be able to accumulate wealth, not to be able to invest in a home. That is a lack of economic security and a lack of economic justice for so many families. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. I've been waiting for this for a long time. It was one of the reasons I wanted to get on LAFCO, so that we're not just talking about addressing the housing crisis in Monterey County, we're actually are in a position, in a driving seat to do something about it. So I want to thank Supervisor Lopez and all the South County cities that we now have significant projects in our housing pipeline that I hope will come soon, that our families could see the groundbreaking happening, and hopefully that with also ensuring that there's those inclusionary housing to make sure that there's that adequate percentage of affordable units, but we're also providing homes for all income levels. And I know our job will be in the future to make sure we're addressing all the other needs like traffic impacts and the other things that our staff have outlined. But this is exciting, and this is one of the most important responsibilities of LAFCO, and for all of us, that when we go home and we keep seeing a housing crisis in California, each and every one of our commissioners will be in a position to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to go to Commissioner Gorley next.
Thank you, Chair. Just getting back to John's comments from Land Watch. City of Gonzales, I don't know if it's well known out there at all, John, if you've been to our city and seen what we're up against, but the last 20 years, the City of Gonzales hasn't built a market rate home. We've provided lots of affordable housing, below market, way below market rate, partnerships with CHISPA, the Housing Authority. That was our concentration. So to get out and blast us about our percentage of affordable housing that we're proposing, I think is just wrong. I think you better get some homework done on this. As far as prime ag land in the acreage, if you actually look at what the peninsula cities were gifted with 28,000 acres from Fort Ord and being able to take a blank canvas to Fort Ord and put your housing in for the peninsula, we're looking for something special in the valley. And we have something very special. As Lou Calcagno once said, anything can be prime ag with enough fertilizer. And we talked about this 20 years ago at LAFCO. I was on LAFCO 20 years ago. That's why our area of growth is towards the east for both the city of Soledad and Gonzales. Middle of summer, if you're not irrigated, you can't put a shovel in that ground. I've tried. So it is not prime ag land as per se. It used to be hay ground. It went from hay ground to grapes. And with enough fertilizer and irrigation, the ground, the irrigo and whatnot, everybody's able to actually get a crop off in it. But I just love this idea of Gonzales and Soledad sharing ideas. It didn't used to be that way. And I just commend the leadership from both of the cities working together on these annexations. I think it's a great thing. And it didn't, like I said, it didn't used to be that way. One thing that I'd have to say that's probably critical is Gonzales brought in our entire sphere a couple of years back, but it's been in the planning for 25 years plus, is what it takes, especially now the way construction prices are and everything, what it really takes for these developers looking at all this infrastructure. And Brent Slama said it well, you know, there's only 2 ways into Soledad, there's 3 ways into Gonzales, but we need, you know, we need $50 million to improve these overpasses each. And there's no way one developer with 100 acres or 200 acres is going to find a way to pave that or to bring that to the cities. That's why it's got to be a collaborative effort with both of these projects coming in. I know it's over 1,000 acres, but they need to be annexed. Now, whether the city and LAFCO can come up with an MOU and have certain trigger mechanisms after annexation, that way there's some guarantee and the political will doesn't change and the economy wanes or whatnot and the houses are slowed down on their own, typical cycles, that we move forward with the annexations. We get that property in. That way, there's a guarantee to the developer and the landowners that they can share these costs. They can share them now, and we can provide the needed infrastructure to get water, sewer, get PG&E on board, our own very own municipal utility district here in Gonzales, and get these things financed so we can get the infrastructure in. We don't want to be, you know, digging up all the roads in Gonzales to put bigger pipes in and more power and what have you. We need to do it now. We need to get the full annexation done. Commissioner Alejo said it very well. We are so far behind on our housing needs. You know, it's the bang for the buck to get the infrastructure in so housing can be more affordable to all of our residents in Gonzales and Soledad. My kids, you know, they love the Salinas Valley. They want to grow up here. I've got a Midwest gal and daughter that just moved to the Midwest, and you can see the infrastructure struggles in the Midwest also. But my other daughter, she cannot find a home to buy right now. There's just nothing available in the Salinas Valley. You know, I want to help her get started and get her, you know, help her family, her own family get going in the Salinas Valley. It's impossible. We just can't find housing, and there's just such a need. And she's an ag. I support the ag with my construction company. My son is an ag.
Did we lose Matt there? All right, I'm going to go to Commissioner Craig.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. So fun fact, in 2005, I lost out on the lottery to purchase a home in Soledad. It was going to be my first home because you could get way more house in Soledad than you could in Salinas. And as I was looking at age 30, I ended up buying a condo in Salinas because that's what was available. And I was a single woman and didn't need a 3-bedroom home, but certainly the housing expansion down in South County has been significant over the last 20 years. And I credit Soledad and I credit Gonzales with being a viable competitor with the largest city in the county. I mean, we lost man packing to Gonzales, and their efforts over the last several years have shown that they have the capability of growing and they have the capability of expanding. And certainly I'm supportive of the annexation. I think that I think it's time. I will agree with Matt. We've had several conversations. It is a needle you have to thread carefully for developers to be able to build market rate housing and have affordable housing at the same time. I think the city of Salinas settled on 20%, but it was a back and forth between a community group of housing advocates and our developers. They worked it out and brought it to council. But it's, you know, it's something that is certainly needed, but I would also just gently acknowledge that the bigger homes You can buy the bigger homes in South County for what it costs for a condo in Salinas. And that is, that's something that we should take into consideration as well when we're talking about market rate and affordable housing. Larger families can live down in South County with the bigger house that are the bigger houses that have been built. So with that, I just happy to support the annexation. Thank you.
Mayor Velasquez.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just make some brief comments, and thank you, Commissioner Gurley and Commissioner Craig for those supports. And I just want to echo what City Manager Renee stated in terms of our communities in South County, and that our communities and our residents deserve the best, and it's about time. And I know we've struggled with affordable housing, and just in terms of Land Watch comments, I know the city has been tackling that, and we also have our inclusionary 20%, and I know it's been a challenge. And so I know with that, we're very conscientious about the structures that we need to put in place that really provide the support for construction of affordable housing in a fiscally competent manner. Also, where construction doesn't take so long when we're working with affordable housing developers, is affordable housing always seems to take between 5 to 10 years to build. And that is no longer acceptable in our communities. And we really have to be looking at, as Commissioner Alejo stated, also at the social equity for our communities. And I think they're big scale projects, but as mentioned earlier, and I'll just want to echo again, but the need is that significant, that it's that critical for our communities to be able to support our families that are struggling to find a house, and all income levels now, as we've seen just with the pandemic that has really heightened that need for housing. And our families deserve to be able to be homeowners if that's what they choose to do, but also to be able to have a diversification of our housing stock within our South County communities. So thank you. Those are just my final comments I wanted to echo to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Velasquez. I'm going to go to Commissioner LAFCO.
Thank you. Some of you know I spend quite a bit of time in South County, and I'm, I think, very impressed with the thoughtful way that these have been planned and the way they're laid out. And I know when I'm in Gonzales particularly, and I see how the schools are so overcrowded, we have so many young people in South County, and they deserve for us to treat them better. And the pandemic, maybe more than anything, brought that to the forefront. We've got so many children stuffed into apartments, stuffed into houses. And when they get to school, they're stuffed in because we do not have the adequate school classrooms that they need. And they really need to have the classrooms that are up to date with good wiring and good lighting and things that are really incumbent upon us, I believe, as adults to provide for our youth. And these two South County cities in particular have done a terrific job of providing jobs, and they're not low-paying jobs. They're jobs that are career progression in agriculture, and there are not housing availabilities for the people who have taken a lot of those jobs. So we've got almost a reverse commute now. We've got people driving from other cities. They're driving from King City or Greenfield up to Gonzales or Soledad to work. So if we really want a jobs housing balance and get people off the roads down there, I also think this is a strong way to do it. So I look forward to these applications being complete and where we can have a very robust discussion and see how we can serve the residents of South County. Because if we serve them, we serve all of us. Thank you.
Commissioner LAFCO. I'm going to go to Commissioner Oglesby.
Thank you. And I think Mary Ann hit the nail on the head when you talk about if we serve them, then we serve all of us. And that's true. Just want to put 2 or 3 facts on the table, and I think I do them fairly quickly. Matt said something about the former Fort Ord, and we was given all this land. we were not given all this land. The county was, out of that 28,000 acres, the county ended up with a 18 plus, about close to 20,000 of that acres is a national monument that we all can enjoy, right? But on the little piece of land that we do have, we always get, particularly here in Seaside, we get pushback about using that land. And part of that is the challenges we have with our campus town and finding water for that. People don't want us to grow, so they're making it hard for us to grow. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing down there, because that's what's needed. Every day that we do not build another affordable house in this county is another day the housing becomes unaffordable. And I think Commissioner Craig said it perfectly too. You know, you can get more for your money in that community, but if we never allow you to build, then how do you grow? And I'm not comfortable with saying, well, let's just cut up it in tranches. You know, well, you know, you may only need 200 houses for the next 5 or 6. Someone said, I think 25 years. I'm trying to understand that. But why would we require you to come back and piecemeal it when the owners of these properties are saying they want to sell now and they agree to sell now, and then you have enough of a buffer around you for ag land? But we can no longer, be held hostage by RENA numbers we don't control, right? AMBAC come up with the numbers the best they can from the state, and they push it down to us. And then we're required to build. And then when it comes time to build, people say build slower. And I think what you're doing is very responsible. The details are down the line, but the concept, we have to support growth. We have to support creating houses and jobs and opportunities for the people that live here. And I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I appreciate it. And I know you guys have been working on it for years. And I think sometimes you do have to make big grabs of this land. And I think my last point is Commissioner Gorley made a good point about when you want to improve your roads or bridges or infrastructure around there, it takes that money to come from somewhere. My last point is we were given that land on Fort Ord, Seaside, and Marina, and just about everybody faced the same thing. But the land that we had, it came with $20 million worth of concrete buildings that needed to be blight removed. Even after Ford did 20 years of blight removal, when the Seaside is left with $20 million of blight removal. And the only way it can get done is to develop that land economically with housing. And so I just appreciate what you guys are doing. Look forward to reviewing the application for the details, but yeah, push it forward.
Thank you, Mayor Oglesby. I'm going to go to Commissioner Alejo again. And this is probably the longest meeting on record in a while for LAFCO. So I want to let you know I'm setting the bar high here so that I can impress you in the future when they're much shorter. Commissioner Alejo.
I'll be quick, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to reemphasize a point that the reason we have a housing crisis is for what we're seeing right before our eyes. I hope the public sees why housing takes so long, why families are forced to wait in line for so long for the hope of being able to afford a home. When these decisions come, they take a long time, they're expensive, there's oppositions, but let's not make that the story of Monterey County. Salinas has been bold and visionary by also annexing and they have a plan to build, I think 4,300 homes in their first phase, but added Gonzales and Soledad to being part of the solution. I think we're going to be a county that's leading in terms of the percentage of housing that could be built in the next few years. And that will be something proud of, that we could all be proud of, and something that will dramatically improve the life of thousands of families in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Snodgrass.
And just really quick, the point of all this planning that's gone into these developments is that there's a lot of infrastructure from schools to sewers to PG&E and all that. And that costs a lot of money. And if you piecemeal the solution, the developer is not likely to want to invest a lot of money because these things may not happen in the future. And so if you have this infrastructure there, you can still do a controlled build out, but the developer has some confidence that that they're not going to have the rug yanked out from under them as time goes on. So it's really a well thought out plan, and that's really what a lot of this in the other states. What people are doing is they're planning out the entire project, even though it doesn't happen on day one. So I commend both cities for what they're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'll make some final comments here. Just want to thank both cities for bringing forward their projects. I know that these aren't official decisions. We've still got a lot of planning and boxes to check, even though a lot of the comments were very supportive. We've still got a lot more fact checking to do. But, you know, there was a lot of comments that really struck home for me in terms of the need here in South County. I buried too many friends in the last year. I buried too many people I know here in South County due to the dense housing situations and the fast spread of COVID through my community. I stood next to too many graves and said goodbye to too many people way too early. And the need is real. And at the same time, those kids trying to do homeschooling via Zoom, when you were packed 5-6 kids into a single room, it wasn't working. The challenges are significant for us. And so I want to commend both cities for bringing these projects forward. I appreciate every commissioner on here and their expertise. That it really takes a community lift to make this happen. And the visioning that each one of you has put forward through your own lens, whether it's Matt as a builder, or maybe he was helping Louis offload some of that cow manure as fertilizer. I don't know. I wasn't sure with that comment, but you know, from Steve Snodgrass with his expertise on construction, and Mayor Craig with her history of looking in South County. I took all your comments to heart and just really appreciate everybody's perspective on these particular projects and really looking at our regional needs as a community. You know, it's real. I blanked out my camera a few minutes ago to hold my son to kiss him goodnight as he went upstairs to go to bed. And as you guys were talking, my thoughts were, what's it going to look like when he wants to come home? I got lucky. I fought to get back here, to end up here after I went to college. And I want him to do the same. I want him to be, his roots are deep in this valley, and I want them to get even deeper. And so I just, I thank you all for your vision and your comments. And with that, I'll go to Commissioner Poitras to wrap us up.
Yeah, I just want to say, some wise guy once said, if you build it, they will come. Well, they're already here, and we got to build something for the people that are already here somewhere. And these two projects look pretty good to me, so I support them.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to look back to staff, see if there's any final thoughts as we wrap this item.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your comments on behalf of the LAFCO staff, and I have no additional comments.
Okay, so with that, we will wrap this item. I don't believe we needed any formal action. Once again, thank you to the cities for coming forward and bringing your plans to share with us. So we'll take up our next item, which is consider business items for the 21 annual conference of the Cal LAFCO Commission, and I'll kick that over to our ED for input.
Thank you. Yes, in October, our statewide organization will be holding an in-person conference in Southern California. And at this time, we're requesting the Commission's action on several business items. First, pertaining to requesting that any interested staff and commissioners have permission to attend the conference. We do have adequate budget for any of you that would like to go, and we will be in touch with you over the next month to request your interest. The second item has to do with voting delegates. We're requesting that you appoint at least a couple of people from our commission, and perhaps me as a backup to address any of the annual business items that need a vote from Monterey LAFCO. The third item is, we believe, an information-only report. There are a couple of openings on the coastal region seats of the Cal LAFCO board. However, our very own chair, Chris Lopez, already serves on the Cal LAFCO board. And so we think this is best that our commission not entertain any nominations at this time from our own commission. And fourth, we have several achievement award nomination categories. And we are requesting at this time that our own local agency formation commission of Monterey County be nominated for an Excellence in Public Service Award. And this is particularly for the 2020 study of fire and EMS services in unincorporated Monterey County. We outlined some of the reasons why we think that is an innovative and effective study, and it's already proven to be a model in the state. There's a lot of interest in the ideas that we bring forward in that study. The second nomination that we're suggesting is former LAFCO commissioner and former county supervisor Jane Parker for the Outstanding Commissioner Award category. This category covers the last couple of years, and she was an effective member of the Cal LAFCO Board of Directors and a very effective member and leader in the work of our own Monterey LAFCO. So that completes my report, and I request your consideration of these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. So let's take them one by one and give maybe some consensus here. So authorize attendance for the annual LAFCO conference in Sacramento, October 30th through November 1st. Is there anybody opposed to that? Okay.
I would move that we authorize attendance for whoever would like to attend.
Second, Craig.
Okay, I've got a motion, a second. Any public comment on that? Seeing no hands going up, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Alejo.
Aye.
Commissioner Craig.
Aye.
Commissioner Gorley.
Yes.
Commissioner Leffel.
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Oglesby.
Aye.
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 Commissioner Poitras.
Yes.
All ayes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
So next we have to designate voting delegates to represent LAFCO of Monterey County. And how many do we need, Kate?
2 would be good, and then I could be your backup.
Okay, since I'll be there as a Cal LAFCO member, I don't mind being one of them. Is there anybody else who would want to serve in that capacity and intends to go?
I'm willing to do that. This is Mary Ann.
I'll move
Perfect.
to nominate Chair Lopez, Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Leffel, and our executive director for those 3 positions. Kate,
Oglesby second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public comment on that? Seeing no hands up, we'll do a roll call vote on that.
Commissioner Alejo. Commissioner Alejo.
Aye.
Commissioner Craig. Commissioner Gorley.
Aye.
Commissioner Leffel.
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Oglesby.
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras.
Yes.
All ayes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. So then we'll look at considering nominations for city and public member seats on Cal LAFCO Board of Directors. And once again, Kate, your recommendation was not to proceed on that at this time?
That is correct, that this would be for information only.
Any concerns with that direction? Hearing none, I'll take it out, see if we have any public input on that. Hearing none, we'll bring it back and go ahead and leave that as is if there's no issues, and head into item D, which is to receive information or consider nominations for Cal LAFCO Achievement Awards. And I heard 2 that were mentioned by you, correct, Kate?
That is correct.
I would move that we forward both of those nominations.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any public input on that? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Gail.
Commissioner Alejo.
Aye.
Commissioner Craig.
Aye.
Commissioner Gorley.
Aye.
Commissioner Leppo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Aye.
Commissioner Poitras,
Yes.
all ayes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And with that, we've concluded this item and we'll head into our executive officer communications. Back to you, Kate.
Right, thank you one more time. Agenda item number 14 contains 3 items for your information. One pertains to a town hall meeting that was hosted just in the last week or two by our own Commissioner Wendy Root Askew concerning East Garrison community. And the second, we have a follow-up on various activities that are underway in the county that we like to think, at least in part, are inspired by our 2020 fire study. And finally, I'm very pleased to report that we have been able to retain Bill Nicholson to assist us in our professional consulting needs during the next few months when our principal analyst, Darren McBain, is off on an extended leave of absence. And Bill has patiently stayed with us and as an observer through our entire meeting. And I'd like to virtually introduce you to him there. If any of you have any questions of him, or Bill, if you'd like to say hi.
I unmuted, if that's appropriate. Yeah, hello, welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I've known Kate for a long time, so I'm trying to help pinch hit here in a busy time for your commission. And I understand this isn't a typical 4-hour meeting, so that's good news for me. So thank you.
Right, thank you, Bill. And that completes my report for the evening.
Great, thank you. Any additional commissioner, oh, actually, let me see if we have any commissioner comments on those executive officer communications.
This is Wendy. I just wanted to say that Kate was phenomenal at our East Garrison Community Town Hall, and the information that you were able to provide was valuable. It was concise. It was received with deep appreciation from everyone who attended. We've had fabulous feedback, and I think you were able to really clarify a lot of points that had been causing confusion for the community. So Kate, thank you so much for that evening with our community.
Thank you, Commissioner. It was my pleasure.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to go out and see if we have any public input. Seeing none, I'll close that item, bring it back, and then our last item is commissioner communications. Any communications from commissioners they wish to share with the rest of the body?
Just congratulations to you, sir, for having won the longest meeting race, certainly in my experience.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, then.
Turned over the gavel just in time.
Right? You gave me a fun one. I feel like we learned all about the issues Monterey County LAFCO deals with today. So thank you, everybody. With that, we are adjourned till the next one. Appreciate you all sticking with us through this. We'll see you at our next meeting.
Have a happy Independence Day.